But it's nice. I've used up all my holidays bar one now. So
Well, one day.
yeah, that's it.
Good
Let's work
stuff.
up some time.
See, I do have a couple to go, but I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, but it was nice. You know, get a few days off. You know.
Yeah,
but it's nice to get back into the routine. I was saying the Carolyn routine. I like a bit of routine too, but it's nice to change up the routine.
Yeah, it's
Reset.
Yeah. But I've become more. I used to be at a loose end. I felt I was a loose end at work, but I'm better now. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I find that I've more contentment without routine.
You're doing good. You just keep doing what you're doing, you know. You'll get there, do you know? Just be positive. You got
You think I'll hit the big time?
You never know. You never know. Just keep you chipping away there, you know, your opportunity. Be persistent. You
think?
Doors can open and
I'm
obviously
all right,
doors
don't
can
worry
close.
about it.
There's an odd trap door as well.
There is.
So watch out for them.
Hey, come here. Have a great day.
Quicksand, not to mention that.
Come here, have you noticed the hour's almost gone in the morning already? Do you know the extra hour we gained with the clocks changing?
I noticed when I looked.
Feels like it's almost lost already.
I clocked a blackbird like
Right.
about a week ago. I couldn't because he was black. And it was black, dark, but it was light on the lamppost. He was kind of giving me an eye wink when I got there.
Really wish I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole with you, but thanks anyway for that anecdote. It's
Yeah.
a cracker. All right then, Lee Gooch is away. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a news update. Let's say good morning again to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. It's emerged that Letterkenny could have a new bridge and the Twin Towns could finally secure a bypass within 7 years. Members of Donegal County Council have received an update on the 10T Road project, a three-stage plan that would see the biggest investment in Donegal's road network. The meeting was told that detailed planning documents will be submitted next year and work will begin in January on finalising necessary compulsory purchase orders. Councillor Kieran Brogan, Mayor of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District, says it's vital that all I's are dotted and T's are crossed to avoid the sort of issues being experienced at the moment with the A5 north of the border. He says all going well, construction on the 10T should begin within 3 years.
It was confirmed that work could start on 2028 and there will be a 4-year construction time frame, and hopefully that is the case. You also have to be honest and say that there could be delays, but I think as regards priorities, we're in a good place and I think everything's going very well so far, and it's important that people are fully informed of this process and as much work is done at an early stage to avoid any hurdles that may emerge in the future.
Homeowners have until this coming Saturday to submit updated valuations for the next local property tax cycle. The new 4-year period begins in 2026 with valuations determining how much tax will be paid until 2030. Revenue says it's still waiting on returns from nearly 3/4 of homeowners. Sinn Féin's Piers Doherty says the government has misled people about how much they'll pay.
Everybody's going to pay higher property tax. That's what the government has ensured as a result of the legislation that they brought in this year. The second thing is that they said that how they were bringing this in meant that only a small fraction of homes, less than 5%, would actually go up a band. And that's where you would see a significant jump of maybe a 30% increase in how much you would be paying.
Asylum seekers in IPAS centres may have to foot some of the bill for their accommodation under proposals due to be discussed by Cabinet. Asylum seekers who are working here will have to pay between €15 and €238 a week for their accommodation under the proposals. The move comes amid claims that there's a demonisation and scapegoating of asylum seekers coming from the very, very top. People Before Profit TD Paul Murphy made the accusation following an arson attack on an IPAS centre in Drogheda on Halloween night. Deputy Murphy is warning all politicians they need to be careful what they say.
So I think this should serve as a warning to everybody in politics to stop on the road that we're currently going down of scapegoating asylum seekers for problems that they're not responsible for. Obviously, whoever is responsible, I hope they're caught. I hope they go to prison as a consequence. But we need to learn a wider lesson about the discourse that's happening.
And the founder of Focus Ireland, Sister Stan, has died at the age of 86. Sister Stanislaus Kennedy passed away earlier this morning in Dublin. The Kerry native set up the homeless charity 40 years ago. And the weather forecast, a dull and blustery day with outbreaks of rain and drizzle turning more persistent through the afternoon and into the evening, rain clearing eastwards later tonight. Quite mild with top temperatures 13 to 15 degrees Celsius in fresh to strong southwest winds. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock. In the interim, check all the day's news on highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
Imagine heartburn protection that lasts up to 24 hours. From first thing in the morning to last thing at night. Don't just imagine. Nexium Control gastro-resistant tablets provide up to 24-hour uninterrupted heartburn protection. Nexium Control 20 milligram gastro-resistant tablets. Ask your pharmacist. Contains esomeprazole. Used for up to 2 weeks. Always read the label or leaflet.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio with me, Greg Hughes, in for another week. How are you all keeping? How was your weekend? I hope it was very nice for you. If you're working, I hope it went smoothly. If you were off, I hope you had a great time. But we're back. It's Monday morning, 4 minutes past 9, Monday the 3rd of November. And we've a busy show lined up for you as always. We mentioned last week quite casually on the programme that, there's a lot of questions out there about LPT, evaluations, re-evaluations, all that kind of stuff. We have a Q&A on the local property tax. So if you have any questions in relation to it, please give us a call or a text right now and we'll get answers for you. 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number. 086 60 25,000 or call us on 07491 25,000. So if you have any questions, uncertainty or clarification needed on the local property tax, listen, it's an expert in local property tax, not how it's spent. So in terms of where the money goes, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to drill down into that for you. But suffice to say, hopefully, if you have any questions, any uncertainties, we'll be able to get some clarification for you. So text and WhatsApp on that. But anything at all, by the way, because we love your comments here on the show. And those numbers apply 086 60 25,000 for your WhatsApp and text for general queries, or call us on 07491 25,000. Maybe there's something you think we should be talking about after the weekend. Maybe there's some good news that you want to pass on and share with people. We're more than happy to cover all things. And emails are always there for you, of course. Comments at highlandradio.com. And if you want to watch the show, we're on the YouTube app, Highland Radio Ireland. So that means you can watch us on your mobile devices, but also your smart TV and your Fire Stick. We're across Facebook and on the X platform as well. The Donegal News reports light at the end of the tunnel. A major road infrastructure project it's not a tunnel that's needed, it's a blooming bridge. But anyway, a major road infrastructure project in Donegal, the biggest to date, is expected to be submitted for planning approval in January next year. Donegal County Council, in attendance at Friday's special plenary council meeting, were given a detailed update on the progress of the long-awaited transport the Trans-European Transport Network, that's the TEN-T project. They were told by council officials that the major road infrastructure project is expected to be submitted for planning approval in January 2026, which would also include the formal notification of compulsory purchase orders to close to 500 property owners. The Donegal TEN-T project proposes targeted improvements on 3 sections of the national road network. Councillors also heard that the estimated 5 years of works could start in 2028 with a completion date of 2032. Okay, yeah, so obviously for it to be under 5 years, it would have to be at the start of 1 year and at the end of the other. In the presentation, the council officials detailed how the project would be realised, which included detailed maps of the upgraded road networks. This includes the proposed bridge across the River Swilly, which is a major part of the project. I'll be honest with you, that's a bridge I never thought I'd see to go to construction. I'd be delighted if that began in 2028. So hopefully we're going to get a version of that briefing for you on this programme in the next if it's not today, in the next couple of days or so, just so you know precisely, directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak, progress in that regard. The Derry News this morning: Derry City and Strabane District councillors have unanimously agreed to write to Stormont Education Minister Paul Giffen, regarding the dilapidation of a school building in the city. Raising the issue at Wednesday's full council meeting, Councillor Aisling Hutton of Sinn Féin highlighted the ongoing situation at St Eugene's Primary School near the city centre. Councillor Hutton said it was not the first time the infrastructure of schools in the city and district had been the topic of conversation at the council. On to the Nationals now and the Irish Independent, and there is a sense that the government, and we talked about this on Friday, that the government is maybe changing its policy or its language in terms in relation to asylum seekers. A lot of people, you will hear stories of not happy that so much money is given to people in accommodation, etc. So that might be about to change. Asylum seekers who are working in Ireland will have to pay between 15 and 238 a week for their accommodation in the IPAS centres under plans to be discussed by the government today. The Cabinet Subcommittee on Immigration will meet to discuss a range of measures as the coalition hardens its stance on the issue. New figures show 5,000 people are living in IPAS centres despite being granted a legal right to remain in Ireland. So effectively they are legal citizens but still benefiting from the refugee accommodation. Well, not legal citizens, but they have certain rights that legal citizens have. And therefore, they're no longer considered an international protection applicant. The Cabinet Subcommittee will discuss a new charging model for those in IPAS centres who are working. It's to contribute to the services they received. Under the plans, which have been worked on by Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan and Minister of State for Migration Colin Brophy, there'll be a range of weekly payments depending on earnings. This is not considered a cost-saving measure, rather one to ensure fairness across the system and to ensure more people move out of state accommodation. Non-payment would be pursued through debt collection and enforcement proceedings in the courts when a debt has been accrued. So you will hear stories of people who are living in IPAS centres. I've had stories related to me that, you know, they might be going in and collecting large sums of money for post offices, for an example, and people are aggrieved by that, but they also might be working as well too. So in terms of fairness, I think this would be a good move, to be honest with you, because there is a sense of unfairness out there at the moment. But under the rules to be discussed by ministers, any applicant who refuses to pay would be denied citizenship while any arrears may remain outstanding. Meanwhile, the Labour Party has strongly criticised proposals to cut the time Ukrainian refugees can remain in state accommodation from 90 to 30 days. That's another proposal as the government hardens its angles, its tones on in this area. Talking about the 10T and other projects, other major projects, just an interesting story in the Irish Times that aren't necessarily relevant to it, but it's a big project, and this is about big projects. The grounds for taking court challenges to decisions on big infrastructure projects would be narrowed to those directly affected by a proposed scheme under plans to be considered by senior ministers today. If you, when I was working full-time in the newsroom, I went through an awful lot of planning applications because it was a source of news, right? So you'd go through the weekly lists and see anything that was perhaps newsworthy. And the one thing I did notice, and this wasn't just with major infrastructural developments, but across the board, was that a lot of the objections might be coming from down the country. So you'd see objections from Leitrim, Galway, wherever. And maybe it was a proxy, you know, maybe there was someone local objecting, but they didn't want their name necessarily on the objection, so they got a friend down the country to object on their behalf. I was never really fully comfortable with that. I'm not really sure, unless you're directly affected, you should be really have a say in it, but I'm open to correction in relation to that, and I'm open to argument in relation to that. But anyway, certainly if you're not affected by a major infrastructural project, should you be able to object? Well, going forward, maybe you won't be able to. The Cabinet Committee on Infrastructure is to discuss proposals from a task force established by Minister for Public Expenditure Jack Chambers. With the coalition under significant pressure to tackle infrastructure backlogs, it will examine a range of measures aimed at introducing a higher threshold for pursuing judicial review cases. This is a category of legal action that challenges administrative decisions such as planning permissions and other, often results in long delays for infrastructure projects, which in and of itself can be the goal of sort of judicial reviews. It emerged that Ivan Yates may have been giving some advice to Fianna Fáil's presidential election candidate. His brief stint at it. He might have been giving advice. This is Ivan Yates. Not fantastic, I would say, but anyway. Reading in the Irish Daily Mail, a war of words is broken out between Fine Gael and its coalition partner Fianna Fáil as the fallout from the presidential election continues. Tensions have increased after it emerged that former Agriculture Minister and one-time Fine Gael TD for Wexford, Ivan Yates, mentored Fianna Fáil's Irish candidate Jim Gavin, but kept his role secret during the campaign. Matters came to a head at the weekend when it was revealed that Today FM broadcaster Matt Cooper had parted ways with podcast partner Mr. Yates following a newspaper report stating that the former minister was aligned with and paid by the Fianna Fáil camp for the services. Now, fair play to Matt Cooper taking a stand in relation to that. I've not listened to that podcast, but I do know it's actually really quite popular, so it's a big move. The two presented a political podcast titled Path to Power that was produced by celebrity agent Noel Kelly. Former Justice Minister and ex-Fine Gael TD Alan Shatter stepped into the controversy over the weekend, accusing Taoiseach and Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin of concealing Mr. Yates' role from the public. So it's a bit murky. And, maybe people don't have an issue with it. It's just the fact that why keep it a secret, I suppose. It's all going to come out in the wash. But I'm not sure Ivan Yates will be getting any consultation gigs soon, if that's the best he could muster with Jim Gavin. But anyway, DJ Kerry's going to know his fate today. He's likely to end up in prison. This is in the Sun this morning. Shamed hurling legend DJ Kerry faces jail today over defrauding friends and fans out of nearly €400,000 by pretending to have cancer. The former Kilkenny star 54 is set to appear at the Criminal Court of Justice in Dublin for a sentencing hearing this afternoon. His initial hearing last Wednesday was adjourned after the court heard that he was attending Port Tunkula University Hospital in Ballinasloe, Galway. Disgraced Kerry finally made it to court on Friday, where Judge Martin Nolan said a custodial sentence for Kerry was inevitable. I don't know how much I can say about this. There's no excuse for what DJ Kerry did, but he would argue maybe there is excuses because of other things that were going on in his life. And obviously defrauding family and friends, there's an awful lot of, it's not a good thing to do. It's a bad thing to do, of course. And, maybe he does deserve going to prison. I don't know. Because this is sort of like a financial situation. But I'll be honest with you, and this sounds really obvious and potentially populist, and I'm not intending it to be that case, but I'm just speaking honestly. Day after day after day, I see court cases of people who are guilty of abuse, that have child abuse images. Those images are on their computer because children were actually abused. It's not a victimless crime. And they know that. They know what they're doing. And they get suspended sentence for having 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 views. And the amount of damage to children that would have had to have happened for those images to be produced. And then for these perverts then to get some sort of a gratification from that. And then to walk out of the court with a suspended sentence. And then you see a case whereby this is a financial situation. I'm not saying there aren't victims, but this is going to be a custodial sentence situation. And I know the law is complex, and I know judges have to sort of operate between the guidelines and precedents and all that kind of stuff. But I do find it a little bit uncomfortable that we see people every day walking free, guilty of what I think is one of the most heinous crimes there is. And then you have someone involved in a financial fraud with potentially mitigating circumstances like addictions or what have you, and they're locked up. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong, one's right. There's just something seems a little bit off there for me. I don't know what you think. 086 60 25,000. I'm not trying to say DJ Kerry shouldn't be punished for what he did. It's just the law sometimes can seem a little bit skewed in different directions. The Mirror now. A woman whose terrified kids were caught up in the Halloween arson attack on an asylum seeker centre said they were lucky to survive it. The mum said the children could have died as Gardaí continued a major probe into the arson attack on the property in the centre of Drogheda, County Louth on Friday night. The woman, who's from Ghana, told RTE News she was outside the building waiting for her children aged 8 and 12 to be rescued. She asked, how can somebody be so mean? The woman and her family are now in temporary accommodation. The attack has left 28 people homeless. A security review of all IPAS centres will take place speedily, the Minister of State for Justice, Home Affairs and Migration has said. Now, this was inevitable, and another one is inevitable. I find it remarkable that we're only reviewing security now. There was a lot of buts going on with that story, though. That action or that type of activity is terrible, but that's what I heard an awful lot of over the weekend talking to people. And lastly, in the Irish Daily Star, the taxpayer, which is you, of course, has been left to foot the bill for more than €15 million worth of incorrect welfare payments over the past 2 years. A total of €7.97 million in benefits were written off last year, up more than 300,000 on the equivalent figure of 7.64 from 23. The Department of Social Protection said overpayments of welfare were written off partially or in full when there was no prospect of future recovery of the cash. They said 75% of these payments related to people who were deceased, while other overpayments of less than €100 were considered uneconomical to pursue. Right, that was a run through some of the stories on the front of and inside the papers today. We make our own headlines, of course, every day on this show, and that will continue after we take this break.
Newspapers are kindly supplied by Cosgrove Centra, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Now with the new look Mountaintop Diner.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Seasonal loans now available for Christmas. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
As your bump gets bigger, sleeping on your side helps keep your baby safe. It's okay if you wake up on your back at night, just turn on to your side again. Visit mychild.ie for advice on pregnancy, baby and toddler health.
The Irish Times says the hybrid Dacia Bigster might just be Ireland's best car right now. That's a big review. Well, it is a big family car with big space, big tech, a big boot and big hybrid power. Get more for less from just €29,990. Visit your local Dacia dealer to find out more. Dacia. Drive more for less. Price excludes delivery and related charges. T's and C's apply. Offers are limited. See dacia.ie.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with our bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9am until 5pm and on Saturdays from 9am until 3:30pm. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725822 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
When you choose to make your meals a little more organic, you're not just enjoying nutritious goodness, you're doing good too by supporting organic farmers and producers. That blissful bit of beef, those fabulous fresh fruit and veg, a dash of delicious dairy, or sumptuous seafood that's succulent and fresh. So whether it's a slice, a starter, a side, or a spread, make your meals a little more organic with certified organic food and drink from Ireland. Learn more at boardbia.ie/organic.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
The time now, 22 minutes past 9. A leading Irish fish processing company has been found not guilty by the direction of a trial judge of ensuring the accuracy of equipment used to weigh fish at their Killybegs premises. Sean Ward Fish Exports Limited appeared at Letterkenny Circuit Court, where it faced two separate fishery charges after a 3-day trial. Judge John Aylmer directed a jury to find the accused company not guilty because of a lack of evidence against them. Brendan Byrne is CEO of the Irish Fish Processors and Exporters Association. Good morning, Brendan. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Greg.
This has been hanging over this company for quite some time, hasn't it?
Yes, this relates to a 10-year saga in which the state has pursued Sean Ward over this case. And as you correctly stated, it was before the judge in Letterkenny Court last week. And thankfully, justice in Ireland is fair and balanced, and the case was thrown out for lack of evidence. But I think it speaks wider to a state harassment of industry by the competent authorities, and perhaps even the state. And the consequences of this case and other more recent cases where they were also thrown out by the trial judge for lack of evidence, that we need to look in depthly at what exactly is going on within the fishing sector.
What is the motivation for these cases? That's a question I think would be worthwhile. And also, what is the responsibility for the lack of competence in terms of pursuing it, wasting everybody's time, causing distress with no outcome? I mean, surely pursuing this for 10 years and to be chucked out through a lack of evidence is there someone going to be held accountable for that? And also, as I said at the beginning, the big question is, what's the motivation in all of this to begin with?
Well, I think we need a national debate on fishing, because in my assessment is that we have agencies that are supposedly there to support the fishing sector, and they're quintessentially anti-fishing industry. And this spells to that as far as I can see. But we need to acknowledge the court reporters that have done an excellent job in putting this out into the public domain, because even that would have been gotten away with only for the likes of Donegal Daily and Donegal Democrat. But what we have here is a company that has worked very hard in providing 90 jobs in Killybegs, have worked from the bottom up and are in very difficult times, as is everyone in the fishing sector. And the state response was, we'll drag you through the courts for a 10-year period. And when it goes to trial, there isn't a scintilla of evidence against them. If that isn't state harassment, I don't know what is. And it's not an isolated case. And meanwhile, the government of the day are standing idly by. This is happening in plain sight of everyone. There is harassment of the fishing industry on a daily basis. And it is a sector of the economy that I should be here today talking about a growth strategy, but it's not. Foreign landings are down. The amount of Irish quota landed into the country is less and less, because we have destroyed the reputation of our fishing industry because of what we've seen in this court and previous courts over the last number of years. This has to stop. This is state harassment. When you pursue a company unrelenting, year after year for 10 years, bring them to court, and your case is thrown out by the trial judge because you've no evidence, that is harassment.
Also, too, is it the case, and to make sure we're talking in the same space as we have previously, this is a decision as to how we apply European laws, i.e., they're applied in different countries very differently. Maybe the powers that be actually work with the industry in relation to this. This is our choice. This, for all we talk about in terms of, quotas and Europe and what have you, this is a homemade problem.
It is completely domestic problem. It is a complete problem of our own doing. And I have spoken to this numerous times. We are over-regulating. We are strangling. On occasions, we are coercing industry to fill in declarations and returns in terms of sampling. That's not accurate. What is happening in the fishing industry for the last number of years is nothing short of a national scandal. Thankfully, we have an Oireachtas committee that has a big body of work to do, including examining this and other similar cases. But what has been allowed to happen in the fishing industry for the last 20 years is a national scandal. We are destroying the industry. We are strangling the industry. We are losing jobs and revenue hand over fist, year in and year out. And it has to stop, because the coastal and maritime and peripheral areas have no alternative employment. We should be proud of our maritime history rather than hammering the living daylights out of it with over-regulation and harassment.
But why is it happening? But why is it happening? What's the motivation? Like, if you look at some of the excellent court reporting that you referenced there, some of the site visits there, it was pernickety. It was almost, it reads like, something was going to be found one way or t'other.
Well, I read the court report and I came to the same conclusion, that they were hell-bent on prosecuting this company, which is Sean Ward Fish. They were just motivated to prosecute this company and harass them. Is that isolated to them? No, it's not.
Yeah, but just give the listeners some idea, right? So we were talking about how catches are counted, and we can talk a little bit about that. But in one visit, they thought the CCTV cameras were a bit dirty. This is that we're overseeing the weighing of catches, right? So this is a work environment. The cameras appeared a bit dirty. So they went back and the cameras were cleaned. And then they said they thought they spotted something that shouldn't be there. It was as if, right, well, with the cameras, damn it, you've cleaned the cameras. Now, I'm not trying to libel any individuals, don't get me wrong. I don't know the individuals involved. That's not my motivation here. But it was like, right, well, blooming hell, the cameras have been cleaned. But what's that there? That shouldn't be part of the apparatus. And so on. And it seemed to be a trend, a continuation of this type of activity.
Absolutely. It is a work environment, and to process fish, You use typically anything up to 5,000 litres of water, so there's going to be a lot of splash and that. So it's quite obvious that cameras will get dirty on occasion. But I think what you're speaking to is the kernel of the problem, that they were just hell-bent on making an example of this company. They do it with other companies, and law is not being applied equally or fairly, nor is it being applied on a level playing field basis across Europe. And that is what we have. We have an overzealous enforcement regime in Ireland that is destroying the fishing sector, destroying it, costing jobs, costing revenue to the economy. That is what's wrong. And that has almost been a state policy for the last 20 years. And that narrative has to be reset quickly, because as we've seen on the 30th of September, the amount of cutbacks in quota because of overfishing of other countries such as Norway and Iceland is going to decimate the coastal and maritime regions of Ireland. But we have to get real here in Ireland. And I think earlier this morning I read a piece in the Irish Examiner where finally Ireland is waking up to that we're gold plating everything that comes from Europe. We're over applying everything comes from Europe. We're strangling our own economy. The sad reality is we have strangled fishing and fish processing to annihilation, because this has been going on in our sector for the last 10 to 15 years.
And maybe you said this a little earlier on, and this is part of a process though, there needs to be oversight of actually what has been going on, okay? So if all of this was triggered by, one or two cases of overfishing or whatever it might be in the past, like this type of scrutiny of processors in and of itself needs some sort of an overview as to what was going on. People brought, I don't know if it's before a committee, even a public Oireachtas committee, or if it be some other space or what have you, but this is embarrassing, right? So this needs its own scrutiny. People need to be brought in, right, and explain precisely what was going on, what was the motivation, what was the interpretation, and how did we find ourselves in this position? Because you could argue this is equally as embarrassing as perhaps if we were seen as to be lackadaisical in terms of, the application of rules.
Look, I need to be very clear. We welcome oversight and we welcome rules and procedures that protect the stocks. We are the most compliant member state in all of Europe in terms of fishing and fish weighing and accuracy of weighing. We are the gold standard. That's not what's at debate here. What's at debate here is you have an agency of state harassing industry. You have an agency of state intimidating the industry.
Yes, but you see my point, to bring that agency of state into an Oireachtas committee or wherever that space may be, invite people like yourself and TDs and scrutinise it. That's the oversight. Let's understand exactly what was going on and what the motivation is.
I think the consequences of this case and other recent cases which failed to meet a minimum evidence threshold and were directed to be dismissed by the judge, effectively the cases collapsed. This is not an isolated incident, but I think there's going to be far-reaching consequences of what happened last week in the Letterkenny courthouse. There has to be. We are dealing with state harassment. It has been going on. I know it. The people I represented, they are subject to it. So there has to be far-reaching consequences of what is happening in this case and other cases. And that will go to the very heart of government in the next short period. And I believe there has to be a full investigation into the functioning of the SFPA over the last 10 years.
Is any other area of industry or any other sectors subjected to this level of scrutiny?
No, not at all. I think if any, even if the most successful sector of the Irish economy was subject to this degree of harassment and coercion, you would destroy it. And we see, we have the richest fishing grounds around this island, and our industry is dying on its feet, has been for the last 10 to 15 years. That is because we're not functioning like an industry in Denmark or in the Netherlands or France. We are being strangled by regulation. We are being harassed by competent authorities. This whole narrative has to be reset, and that can only be done by a deep delve and an investigation into what the hell was allowed to happen in this country for the last 10 to 15 years.
But also, obviously, this is all exacerbated by what effectively is the Wild West off our coast. And because of technology, you can sit and watch the factories do whatever the hell they like, some in the EU, some outside the EU. And then, internally, you've got this level of scrutiny, which perhaps wouldn't even register as 0.00000 anything of all we're talking about here. We're arguing about a minuscule amount of the stock, and yet you look out from Killybegs, not necessarily literally, and it is a free-for-all. And then you have to pick up the pieces of people saying to you, well, there's not enough fish to fish anymore. And whatever fish you catch, it's crazy what's going on. It's almost unbelievable.
Those countries and member states that catch between 85 and 90% of the fish around Ireland are not regulated at all. In Ireland at present, we're lucky if we get 12 to 14% of the fish that's caught around this country. And that is subject to the amount of scrutiny and harassment. We are pro-scrutiny, but scrutiny and harassment are two different things here. Scrutiny and coercion are two different things here. And that is what we have seen, and that is what has decimated this sector. Our reputation's in tatters because no foreign vessel will come into this country, or very few will, because of the degree of intimidation and hassle they get in Irish ports. Unless, of course, you're a Belgian or a French beamer and you can go and put your produce into the back of a lorry without any scrutiny or oversight. That's what we're dealing with on a daily basis. And that is what has the likes of me and other spokesmen on programs such as yours saying our industry is dying on its feet because of the nonsense that has been permitted for the last 10 to 15 years, and it has to stop.
And just by the by of that 12 or 14%, is it still a case that some of that fish, some of the stocks that we were very generously given by Europe, because of the level of scrutiny, ends up as meal rather than food because of the sort of onerous application of these regulations? Surely that's not still the case of that tiny little fraction of fish we get.
And I had a discussion with the SFPA as late as last week. As I speak to you today, we cannot weigh blue whiting without damaging the quality of them, which means it can't go into human consumption. That is a national issue that can be sorted here in Ireland. Europe are not coercing us into that, but we're over-interpreting rules and regulations to a point of strangulation. And that is not an isolated incident. There's incident after incident, and that is why we're here talking about 17,000 jobs that are on the line because we are putting them out of existence through harassment.
But I get a sense that there's a what next, right? You're working on something. What is it?
What we need to do is, and thankfully we have a dedicated minister, we have oversight in the Parliament through an Oireachtas committee. All this is to be aired out. I think today what you and I are doing is the start of a long national debate that will get to an end point, and the end point is the harassment of the industry stops. The coercion of the industry where they're forced to do things that are impossible to do stops. And that is going to be a long, hard saga and debate, but it has to be done. The pain has to stop and the fairness has to return.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. That's Brendan Byrne, CEO of the Irish Fish Processors and Exporters Association. It's an issue affecting a lot of people in this region. There's just no doubt about that, and well worth the conversation. A caller says this is state-sponsored punishment, beating on a sector. Another, the state spends more money mismanaging the fishing industry than the industry generates. The SFPA and state use the courts as their customer care department. Someone needs to be held accountable. Another, speaking about state agencies working against fishermen, DAFM and BIM are refusing to let the mussel fishermen go to fish. The entire bottom-grown mussel industry is facing bankruptcy because of red tape. It seems like they're clearing the seas to make way for offshore wind farms. I don't know. We'll see. I can see where that might come from, especially when some organisations representing the industry have some skin in that game as well. Right, we'll be back with more after the break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
TFI Local Link operates evening and weekend services throughout rural Ireland to help you stay connected 7 days a week. We know life doesn't just happen 9 to 5, so if you're commuting, shopping, visiting family, or going out in the evenings or on the weekends, let TFI Local Link take you there. Visit transportforireland.ie. Looking for a great way to reward and thank your hardworking team this Christmas? Choose a gift that gives back. With the Dunstores gift card, the more you gift, the more you save with a tax-free allowance of up to €1,500. Think instant gifting, instant delivery with an e-gift card your employees can use across all our departments, in-store and online. The Dunstores gift card. Perfect for everyone. Terms, conditions and exclusions apply.
Tá an scéim chlárú uaibríoch mo chiiste don tauchaí ag teacht. A ostóirí tá sé chur siimplí le héan dó trí. Céim a héan. Críochnaí de frófíl thairsach My Future Fund de mína nullag. Céim a dó, socrí mó ícíochta. Céim a trí, lean leis a bóral a maras gná, tá sí na rannaí cíochtaí a mianor. Cuimhne bhfuil dúlgasart chlárú go huaibríocht ar an tlé. Agus nádin dearmad a chur a niúlda de ostathe má tá siad chláirithe. Tile ólis ar fáil ar gov.ie/fostóirí AE. Teachtareacht ó rialtas na hÉireann.
The search for the right mortgage isn't easy, but it's always better with PTSB. So whether you're buying, building, or moving, you'll get a team of your own to help you find the right rate. With dedicated options for energy-efficient homes and an online portal to track every stage of your application, start your mortgage search with PTSB. Apply online today. PTSB. Altogether more human. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Security and insurance is required. Permanent TSB PLC trading as PTSB is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We received email from the Religious Sisters of Charity, which reads, "We're deeply saddened to announce the passing of Sister Stanislaus Kennedy, known to many as Sister Stan. Sister Stan died this morning after a short time at the St. Francis Hospice in Blanchardstown. Sister Stan was a powerful voice for compassion, equality and systemic change throughout her life. She'll be greatly missed by her family, friends, co-workers and the congregation. While there's a deep sadness, we're confident that their legacy of a life dedicated to the service of others in need will continue to inspire us and generations of activists and social innovators in Ireland." Those were words from Sister Patricia Lenihan, Superior General. And Sister Stan would have been a regular on Highland Radio as well over the years. May she rest in peace. We might return to that in more detail down the line. Now, Independent Councillor Michael McBride has asked members of the Letterkenny-Mulford municipal area to support his call to have a review of the current fees for call-outs of emergency services to road traffic collisions. Councillor McBride, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, so what's the situation, Michael, as it stands?
Well, I suppose, Greg, it just, I know a lady who was involved in a single car accident. There were very minimal damage done to the car, no headlights broken or anything, but the airbags went off. And when the lady eventually got out of the car to survey the damage, then the emergency services arrived. And so obviously somebody who arrived at the scene of the accident called the emergency services. And then following the accident, the woman, she received a bill for €1,580 and subsequently contacted our insurance company, who asked if she made the emergency call herself. She told them that she didn't. So they told her that because she didn't call them herself, she wasn't covered. And then they also told her, that in the event if she had to be cut out of a car or anybody else, that they would only be covered up to a ceiling of €1,000. So I put this motion forward to our next municipal meeting, and would like the Special Policy Committee of Donegal County Council to review the policy. I think it's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people in the future, because most people don't realise that they wouldn't have cover. And in fairness, if you were in a car, you wouldn't be able to make the call yourself, so a lot of people won't qualify. And it's a huge bill to get for people, that are probably, a lot of people are still on, on the breadline. And it's a huge bill to get for them. So I think we need to review the whole thing, and I think it'll take up a lot of time of council staff trying to administer it. I can see a lot of court cases to try and collect money, and I think it's not a reasonable amount of money for to pay for a call out. A lot of people feel that these emergency services should already be covered through the income tax and the taxation that they pay. So that's the reason I'm bringing it in there, Greg.
So who has to be called out for you to be billed 1580? Is it a set fee? Is it a standing fee, or is it the fire service, the ambulance, Gardaí, one of all, or one of each, or one of all, or what is the rules as they stand?
Well, it appears at the moment that when an emergency call is made, that both the ambulance service and the fire service would attend, and it's the fire service that have issued the bill, on behalf of Donegal County Council to the client.
Mm. And has this been in place for a while? Do we know? I'd be very interested, and maybe it will come out in the wash if you don't have the information already. How many times are these bills sent out per annum in this county, if you know what I mean?
Greg, at this point in time, I don't have that information. It's the first time that this has ever been brought to my attention, and I just met an elderly lady that wasn't, she was in a very disheveled state whenever she got the bill, and I just think that it's a bit much to expect somebody that's trapped in a car to have to make a call themselves. So, if somebody comes in an accident, it's a very reasonable thing to do, to call the emergency services.
Yeah, but unless you sort of drill down to this, the council are going to say, well, that's a matter for the insurance companies. Do you know what I mean? So, is it that you want the council to waive this, or is it B, that, the insurance companies need to sort of understand the situation? Because I think, you could find yourself with the council saying, we don't disagree with you, the insurance company, should cover this, whomever rings.
Well, I suppose, Greg, that maybe the reason I brought a motion on would be a double-pronged approach on it. The first one is to, to look at the fee itself. I think it's totally unreasonable to expect people, to pay, a figure that's close to €1,600 and, out of their own pocket. And the second one is, I think that I would just like to take it to the attention of all the motorists out there. I suppose a lot of us don't check the small print on insurance policies, and a lot of people think that they're covered for this, and I think it's time, that anybody's listening today maybe would go back and check their own insurance policy to see, and maybe you can ask the insurance company, maybe for an extra $5 or $10 on your policy, that you would be covered, in the case of something like this happening.
Yeah.
And that's important for people out there, that the message gets out that they're not covered.
And I presume this 1580, does that apply to also call-outs for chimney fires, for an example?
I'm not sure what the...
Because that would be interesting, because is it fair?
Right,
is it fair to charge people for something that's also an accident in that situation, where could they find themselves saying, well, I'll try and do this myself and come off the roof, rather than paying almost £1,600? Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be interesting to find out too, because that could arguably be equally unfair. It's an accident, and you could find yourself someone putting themselves in peril because they're concerned at getting a bill for £1,600. Do you know what I mean? So I'd be very interested to know that as well.
I suppose these are the things that we'll need to look at, but certainly the Special Policy Committee of Donegal County Council need to sit down and review the whole thing, because, I think the public need to know what's happening, and they need to know what they're covered for, and they need to know what their exposure may be in the case of something like this happening to them,
I mean, say, for instance, there's a council drain blocked and there's a shower of rain and the water runs off the road into your house, and you call the fire brigade. Is that £1,600? Should you have to pay that, considering you could argue that maybe if the road was maintained properly, you wouldn't be liable? There's a lot of spaces, once you're open this can of worms, that it would be no harm pursuing whilst you're in that can, if you know what I mean, especially if it deters people from calling an emergency service and putting themselves in peril.
Well, that's right. I mean, we all need the emergency services. It's a great, it's a great resource to have on our doorstep. To have, the fire service and the ambulance service here on our doorsteps. I mean, we've all used them and will in the future need them. And but I just think, that there's so many taxes and everything on everybody at the moment, and to get a bill in for close to €1,600 that you think that the insurance is going to cover, and you find out they don't. I think it's a bit much. So that's the reason I brought
again, because
brought
I'm
the
not.
motion in.
I'm not exaggerating, but you could find yourself in a situation with someone in the car, maybe even their legs trapped, and they don't realise how bad it is, telling someone who comes and asks them, are they okay, please don't ring the fire service, or please don't ring 999 because I can't afford £1,600. We have a responsibility to get to the bottom of that now, because we've raised that potential possibility. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we're wrong in having the conversation, Michael, but we don't want people now changing how they might use the emergency telephone line because of the risk of a €1,600 charge, bother shouting. So we'd need to get clarity in all those areas. And maybe you'll rejoin us when you get that. I'd appreciate it if you could.
Okay, look, I appreciate you taking me on this morning.
No, good stuff.
I hope this may be helpful to some of the listeners out there, and people will go back and check their policies to see what kind of cover they've got on it. And maybe, as time goes on, hopefully the motion will be passed at our municipal meeting, and whenever we get it through the meeting at the SPC, I'll have a chance to get a look at it. Hopefully sometime next year, we may have a review complete on it, and we'll see where we're at then.
All right, thanks very much for your time, Councillor Michael McBride there.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Ready to upgrade your car? At Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town, we've got a great selection of makes and models to suit every budget. With flexible finance option and trade-ins welcome, upgrading has never been easier. Visit ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to see us at Shane Conley Cars, Drumlonagher, Donegal Town.
T-Shirt Express has moved. You'll now find us beside C&M Embroidery, Lismonaghan, Letterkenny. We're still your go-to spot for custom T-shirts, workwear, gifts and balloons. Just in a fresh new location. You can still reach us on the same number, 086 343 3504. T-Shirt Express, now beside C&M Embroidery, Lismonaghan, Letterkenny.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Is minic éin éfachtaí faibanna féchas fersanta haar chórsaí airgid a siobháin. Is éit na rudí nach mínling aige hórtstortho a déitach a bheith na gúis len ar me. Gwil an strosart, tén cadrab in olcus. Déitach se mothú go bhfuil an sélig titama sa chéile, ach tá cabhar ar fáil. Fire eisiau an móthir le service doch bhínach den na héireann, agréad nábsblach a chawríonn le faibanna féchas fersanta a réitach. Feg backandtrack.ie le takeíocht ó réaltas na héireann.
If you've been affected by suicide, visit hugg.ie for information and support. Hug, hope and healing after suicide.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Our Christmas shop has now opened for all your festive shopping needs. Explore our extensive range of decorations, bedding and more in our homeware department, in-store or shop online at mcelhinneys.com today.
So, a dull and blustery day with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, turning more persistent through the afternoon and evening. A clearance will move into the western half in the late evening. Quite mild, with highest temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees in fresh to strong southwest winds. I'm joined on the programme now by Aisling Cannon, chairperson and co-founder of Walkie Talkie Girlies Society. Good morning to you, Aisling. Thanks so much for chatting to us.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you so much for having me on.
Right, okay, so talk to me about this society.
So, I am the co-founder of and chairperson of the Walkie Talkie Girlies Society at Queen's University Belfast, and we were set up back in November 2023 by myself and my co-founder Georgia, and our aim was just to set up a safe space where people could socialise, exercise, get outdoors, and also explore Belfast. So since November 2023, we have grown into something that we couldn't have even imagined. And with last year us having over, I think, 560 members, which was pretty insane for being quite a new society. But it's allowed us to do so many interesting things and also to do some really valuable work, especially for the Ending Violence Against Women and Girls campaign.
Yeah, but this doesn't end violence against women and girls, does it? This just sort of protects them or offers some protection. It's kind of worrying. I mean, you can advocate, but it's clear something needs to be done to make people more safe doing the most basic of activities.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, this is obviously such a very complex problem, and it is very difficult to find out, what is the solution. But I think what we offer is not necessarily protection, but more the opportunity for our members to come together and sort of put, like, when they come to our weekly walks, to sort of put, the fears and concerns, and even just the constant sort of thinking about your own safety nearly to the back of your mind, because we're all together, we're walking as a group. And also I feel like in that sort of time when people are feeling, safe and maybe feeling just a little bit more comfortable, then that really is the opportunity for people to really, connect with others as well. So I think it's sort of growing that sense of community, and especially I think for college students as well, because that's where or mainly our members are college students. It's such a great chance for people to get to know a new city, which can be scary, especially with as we know, the serious amounts of violence against women and girls in Northern Ireland. But I think really it's just we try to nearly share like a positive light on it, but also obviously doing the extra bit of work raising awareness for the campaign.
And this is an ongoing problem, the sense of not the sense, actually, the reality of abuse of women. And what I'm trying to get at, there's people are going to be listening that will believe that this has been triggered by immigration policies or what have you. I'm not saying that's not a factor in this or what have you, but this is an ever-present problem that people have experienced, and might actually even be distracting to the project to sort of suggest it's reactive to a particular event or other.
Yeah. So I think, so last year we organised Project Pink, and that was sort of in response to the events of last summer, which saw quite a scary amount of violence against women and girls in such a short period of time. So obviously this is an issue that's, I think it's 28 women have been killed since 2020 in Northern Ireland, which is very scary figures for how small a jurisdiction it is. And then, of course, last summer in Belfast and in Northern Ireland, there was a number of violent attacks and murders against women. And I think it definitely made a lot of people concerned. And there's many different reactions to that, but the reaction that we took was that we need to continue to raise awareness for this issue. And I think Project Pink was pretty much pulled together in 6 weeks as an awareness campaign in Belfast, organised by Queen's students. But it ended up having quite a wide, different amount of people that joined us on the night. And I think that is the important thing, is that this issue isn't just a women's issue, it's an issue that affects everyone. And by only asking women to look at it and to deal with it, it's not really going to solve the problem. And that was the great thing about Project Pink, because we had people from all different communities and walks of life join us on the night.
Yeah,
so,
this Wednesday, the 5th of November, Aislinn's leading another walk, gathering at 5:30 p.m. at Queen's Students' Union, with the walk department at 6:30 p.m. That's particularly for maybe families or students or families of students that would be listening and can attend. Okay, listen, thank you very much for your time, Aisling, and I hope we get to a point where initiatives like this aren't used, but unfortunately we seem to be going in the wrong direction. But keep doing what you're doing, and thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye. Right, back after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Healthwise Pharmacy's annual customer care weekend takes place this Friday the 7th and Saturday the 8th of November, with a minimum of 20% off all things Christmas, including fragrance, gift sets and electrical. It's not to be missed. There will be further massive reductions on selected lines while stocks last. Kickstart your Christmas and call to Healthwise pharmacies this weekend. Healthwise, caring for your community.
Us pigeons see everything when we're flapping around up here. Well, almost everything. See, burning certain fuels releases invisible toxic pollutants, which can trigger asthma and lead to serious illness. So, if you're going to light a fire in your home, make sure to use low smoke fuel. Oh, and never wing it burning rubbish.
Choosing low smoke fuel is better for all of us. Let's clear the air for everyone. And remember to clean chimneys and heating appliances at least once a year. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
It's the Right Price Tiles, wood flooring and bathware 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
With the phasing out of R32 refrigerant and heat pumps, discover next generation comfort with the new award-winning Grant Airona R290 heat pump, delivering exceptional performance with quiet operation. The Grant Airona R290, heating for the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
When it's gone, it's gone. This week's new Wigging at Home Store and More. All cookware sets are all half price. But better hurry, because when all our half-price cookware sets are gone, they're gone. Also, all baking trays and tins are still all half price. But when our baking trays and tins and loose cutlery and cutlery sets Wiggings are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. It's emerged Letterkenny could have a new bridge and the Twin Towns could finally secure a bypass within 7 to 8 years. Members of Donegal County Council have received an update on the 10T Road project, a 3-stage plan that would see the biggest ever investment in Donegal's road network. The meeting was told that detailed planning documents will be submitted next year, while in January work will begin on finalising necessary compulsory purchase orders. Councillor Kieran Brogan, Mayor of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District, says it's vital that all I's are dotted and T's are crossed to avoid the sort of issues being experienced with the A5 north of the border. He says, all going well, construction on the 10T project should begin within 3 years.
It was confirmed that work could start on 2028 and there would be a 4-year construction time frame, and hopefully that is the case. You also have to be honest and say that there could be delays, but I think as regards priorities, we're in a good place and I think everything's going very well so far, and it's important that people are fully informed of this process and as much work is done at an early stage to avoid any hurdles that may emerge in the future.
And there's more from Councillor Brogan, plus detailed maps of the various stages of the 10T available on our website, highlandradio.com. Donegal TD and Sinn Féin Finance spokesperson Pearse Doherty says the government has misled homeowners over changes to the local property tax. He says ministers had promised most people wouldn't see an increase, but many are now moving into higher bands. Revenue has extended the deadline for submitting property valuations to this Saturday, giving homeowners extra time to file their returns online. Deputy Doherty says many will end up paying a higher rate.
Many people right across the state are seeing that there is an increase in the bands, that they are no longer in maybe band 3 or band 4 where they were before, but now have gone up a band. And that's completely at odds with the commitments that were given by the Minister when he introduced this legislation earlier this year, which says the vast majority, I think nearly 96% or so of people would stay within their own bands.
A leading fishing industry spokesperson is calling for an in-depth investigation into how state agencies treat and approach the sector. It's after a Killybegs-based fish exporter was found not guilty on 2 charges relating to the alleged failure to secure the accuracy of equipment used for the weighing of fish. After a 3-day trial at Letterkenny Circuit Court last week, the jury delivered the not guilty verdict at the direction of the trial judge, who cited a lack of evidence in the case. Well, Brendan Byrne is CEO of the Irish Fish Processors and Exporters Association.
Thankfully, justice in Ireland is fair and balanced, and the case was thrown out for lack of evidence. But I think it speaks wider to a state harassment of industry by the competent authorities, and perhaps even the state. And the consequences of this case and other more recent cases where they were also thrown out by the trial judge for lack of evidence that we need to look in depthly at what exactly is going on within the fishing sector.
Brendan Byrne speaking there on the 9 till noon show, and you can hear that full discussion between Brendan Byrne and Greg on our website, highlandradio.com. Police in Derry are asking motorists to drive with caution in the areas of Limavady Road, Clooney Terrace and Victoria Road due to hazardous road conditions following a spillage in the area. No further details have been published by the PSNI. DJ Carey is to be sentenced later today after admitting he dishonestly induced 13 people to pay him sums to fund treatment for a cancer he didn't have. The Kilkenny hurling legend is expected to know his fate by lunchtime. The judge has warned him he can expect a custodial sentence. Carey spent the weekend in protective custody at Cloverhill Prison. And the founder of Focus Ireland, Sister Stan, has died at the age of 86. The Taoiseach says he's saddened to hear of the passing of Sister Stanislaus Kennedy. The Kerry native set up the homeless charity 40 years ago. She spoke previously about how she felt the Catholic Church had lost its way.
The Church has become a big institution with all the trappings of an institution. And it has lost its focus, and it's so full of rules and regulations. That would be my wish for the church, that it would grow in love, it would grow as a community.
Well, the forecast dull and blustery with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, turning more persistent through the afternoon and into this evening. The rain will then clear eastwards later on in the evening and into the night. It'll stay quite mild today with top temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees Celsius in fresh to strong southwest winds. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11. Check all the day's news on highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, the 3rd of November. The death has taken place of Liam McGinley, 350 Lisnafin Park, Strabane, formerly of Camas Park, Strabane, reposing at his home from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral from there on Wednesday morning at 11:45 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 12:30. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 9 p.m. to 12 noon and on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Paddy O'Neill, 18A Bridge Street, Strabane, and formerly of Camas Road, Strabane, reposing at his home. Funeral from there on Wednesday morning at 9:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of James Morgan, Gorchin, Ballylosky, Carndonagh. His remains will repose at Kelly's Funeral Home, Station Road, Carndonagh today from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Removal from there on Wednesday morning at 10:20, going to St Mary's Church, Buchan Culdaff, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live on the parish webcam. The death has taken place of James Call, Drimnacurry, Creasla. House strictly private, please, to family only. Funeral Mass in St Columba's Church, Termon, on Wednesday morning at 11, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. The funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Mary Alice Malloy, formerly of Lower Mully, Glenties. Remains reposing at the Church of the Holy Family, Edeninfa. Funeral Mass this morning at 11, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. The death has occurred of Barney McMonigal, 2 Hawthorne Heights, Letterkenny. Funeral from his late residence this morning, going to St Junan's Cathedral for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed online at churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family time, please, before the funeral. The death has occurred of Reverend Sheila Johnson, née Rowe, Rainbow's End, Carrick McCafferty, Derry Begg, reposing at St John's Church, Ballymore. Funeral service there today at 2 o'clock. Cremation will take place in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the MS and ME associations, care of any family member or James Harkin, funeral director. And the death has taken place of Robert Reid, Bohan Boy, Killy Gordon. Funeral from his late residence this afternoon at 1:15, going to Dunamore Presbyterian Church for 2:00 service of Thanksgiving, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family time, please, before the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Letterkenny University Hospital and the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Fearing the weekly shop? Your money now goes even further with our new Aldi Price Drops. Fill your bag with your faves, fresh wraps, pesto, maybe pancakes? You know, good food, the bits you need, and the treats you deserve. Then head to the till, check the bill, and breathe. Save even more with Aldi Price Drops.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Welcome back to the programme. We're into the second hour this Monday. I hope you're all very well indeed. Thank you so much for listening, or if you're just joining us, good morning to you. We were talking to Councillor Michael McBride. He highlighted a case of a woman that contacted him. She was in a road traffic collision. It was a single vehicle collision. She wasn't injured, but the airbags did go off. A good Samaritan in good faith rang the fire service, and this lady, even though she didn't need the services as such, ended up with a bill for €1,580. €1,580, and he's wondering if this is fair. As it turns out, according to this lady's insurance, and your insurance might be different, her own insurance, car insurance, didn't cover that call-out cost because she didn't call the services herself. Anyway, more of your comments coming in relation to this. Hi, Greg. Is the question not what did the fire services actually do to the woman's car for $1,600? A lot of calls are made unnecessarily. Thanks for that, Oshin. Another, the fire service are constantly abusing the system by turning up at collisions when they are not needed. Well, that's an awful way to frame it. I know the point that you're trying to make, but there is a response, and I'll tell you, when you need it, you're glad there's that response, that you have different arms of the emergency services arriving. You need the fire service there potentially to allow the ambulance to do their job. So the fire service, I would reject. They're abusing the system, to be honest with you. They're not independent. This is the process, and as I say, if you were on the receiving end and you did need them, you would love to see these lads and ladies landing, although I don't think there's any ladies in the Donegal Fire Service. But anyway, this caller says it happened to a friend of mine recently who had a minor collision. It was a one vehicle collision with no injuries. The person received a bill for over €1,000, which his insurance company refused to cover. On the same issue, sure, if you don't have the money to pay, they can't take blood out of a stone, full stop. Another, it really takes us back to the conversation of buying cheap insurance online and not being covered for anything. Yep, interesting actually. I was thinking as he was speaking of that convo we had at the end of last week. How did they reach that amount? 1,580, they're good crack. I think you've written down 15,000, it's 1,580. What about all the people climbing Errigal and Muckish and all the people that get caught out on the water? Who pays for all of them call-outs? Interesting again, this widens the conversation. I'm not sure. In terms of Errigal and Muckish, it's a voluntary group that would primarily be called out, wouldn't it? Donegal Mountain Rescue. But what happens if the 118 is dispatched? I don't know the story. Maybe this is an exclusive fire service charge applied by the council. In response to the charges you're talking about, I was charged $2,500 for the fire brigade to stay at the scene of my collision until the road was cleared because there was no guards available. They say it's ridiculous. Once you call 999, they're all activated, says a listener. Alerted. It seems guards, ambulance, fire, etc. I thought if you didn't make the call and a good Samaritan did, then you were covered. Has this changed? But it's like health insurance, isn't it? Every car insurance policy is going to have changes. It might just be the case that this lady's was as it was laid out there. So I can't speak across the board because all insurance companies can be different. So when the fire services were called out 100 times at Halloween, who pays for that? Interesting question there. On the issue of immigration, morning, I have neighbours from Ukraine, lovely people here a few years now. They came here fleeing the war and managed to bring their car with them and never has anything on the windshield. They went and bought a new car and took the number plates off their car from Ukraine and stuck them on their new car. But sure, why not when you can get away with it? Rant over, love the show. Thank you. Their insurance in their home country covers them, and the rule. So I don't know if there are insurance discs in the Ukraine, but if they're continuing to get their insurance from the Ukraine, they wouldn't have to put them on their windscreen, as far as I'm aware, unless that's the way it's done in Ukraine. Switching number plates from one vehicle to another is a significant no-no, I would imagine. But you never know. There might be provision in the rules to allow for that. It would be a fresh one on me. And randomly, and this is why I love this show, we're going to talk about spuds. Because Tessie says, Greg, when I boil potatoes and check them, I find one half of an individual spud is well boiled and the remaining half very hard and definitely not boiled. And to leave them cooking long enough boiled, half goes into porridge. Anyone discover the same? Thanks. Right. So as I say, you never know what's going to be texted in. So this call is boiling spuds. They're finding that half of the spud is cooked, half of it isn't. And when they continue to boil the spud to get the uncooked half cooked, then the cooked half turns into porridge. Does that make sense? What's going on there? How can a spud in the same thing of water? Are they just bad spuds? I don't know. As I say, we talk about anything on this show. Tessie has problems with her spuds. Have you any reason as to why that might be? Any solutions for her? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. We mentioned DJ Carey, and he's due to be sentenced today. A caller says, what I can't understand about DJ Carey is that nobody's talking about the €9.5 million he owes AIB Bank. If any non-GEA legal defaulted on that, they'd be in jail for that. Never mind what he's done since. He should be in jail. I also agree with you in terms of people getting away scot-free for child abuse imagery. Thanks, Stephen. It is a complex one. And, you know, perhaps maybe sitting in this seat, it's not perhaps fair to conflate one crime with another crime. It's just, I don't know, it's to imprison people for financial matters, even if it's defraud, but not for the other stuff. It doesn't rest easy for me. But then again, maybe I'm not recognising the complexity of all this stuff. But it's just an honest feeling, and I spat it out.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
Who's watching your home while you're asleep, at work, or on holiday? With the Sheridan Security Alarm System, you can be assured of round-the-clock monitoring. Our central monitoring station is on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, monitoring homes and businesses in the northwest for intruder, fire, panic, and medical signals, giving you the peace of mind you deserve. Sheridan Security Systems, Bonagee, Letterkenny, protecting what you value most. Call us for a free quotation on 91 26025.
At SuperValue, make it a Christmas with a difference. Get signature taste cheese, charcuterie and party food 3 for €10. Lowest price guaranteed on 12 and 15 beer can packs from $18.94. And with your Real Rewards card, get Andrex Family Soft Toilet Tissue 24-roll pack for only €9. Make it a Christmas with a difference at SuperValue. DRS applies. Please drink responsibly.
My Future Fund, the new auto-enrollment retirement savings scheme, is coming. You pay in, your employer pays in, and the state tops it up. It all adds up to a great way to save for your future and something to look forward to. For more information, visit gov.ie/auto-enrollment. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 3rd of November. You're playing on the green sheet for the daily prize of €800. The reference number is S1. It's game number 45. The numbers are 7, 67, 52, 85, 38, 40, 69, 12, 68, and finally 55. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Right, now, Transparency International Ireland has published its Speak Up report for 2025. And there's quite an interesting series of findings contained within. We're joined on the programme to discuss this by John Devitt, Chief Executive with Transparency International Ireland. Good morning to you, John. Thank you for your time.
Good morning to you too.
Can I ask about the organisation first before we dig into the report? People may not be aware that it exists, so maybe you could give us a brief outline.
Sure, yeah. Transparency International is part of an international network of organisations dedicated to fighting corruption around the world. But we have chapters in around 110 countries. And in Ireland, we have been lobbying for open government and measures aimed at tackling corruptions for the last 20 years. We also run a helpline, a free helpline for people reporting concerns of wrongdoing, and also offer free legal advice through the helpline and access to psychological supports to people. Some time ago, we worked with Maurice McCabe, for example, the Garda whistleblower, and providing support to him and advice during his ordeal. And we supported around 3,000 people so far, offering around 1.5 million euros worth of free legal advice to people. We're part funded, just for the sake of full disclosure, part funded by the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform and the Department of Justice. But the much of our money or funding has also come from the European Commission and private donations as well. So we're a not-for-profit organisation. If people are wondering what our how we're organised, and our goal is, as I said, to stop corruption in all its forms.
So you talked about a very high-profile case there in terms of former Garda McCabe, but that would be, and I understand why you pulled that out, because people would recognise the name and understand the work that you were doing. What's the other end of it, though? Maybe I say lower level, but this is all subjective, and for the person involved, it couldn't be any higher, right? But just to give me a sense of sort of the range of when we talk of fraud or mistreatment or what have you that you're covering.
Well, the helpline will provide support to anyone, irrespective of where they're working or what type of concern they're reporting. Our goal is to provide information and guidance such that people can make a decision for themselves as to whether they should report or how they might go about dealing with an issue at work arising from a report. And we provide support to people working in the health sector, education, social services, police, anywhere really, and dealing with any type of wrongdoing that is covered by legislation. People might not be familiar with the Protected Disclosures Act. The law was introduced in 2014 to provide blanket rights to people reporting wrongdoing, irrespective of where they worked. Prior to that, people working in the banking sector, for example, had no legal rights to speak up, or very few. And in the wake of the banking crisis, government understood that they needed to see that people had some legal protection in speaking up. So it's not to say, however, that those who are reporting will always come out on the other side without suffering in some way.
Well, that's it. That's what we hear, that, whilst the protected disclosures are there, and in the area of health, I can think right off the top of my head where people have blown the whistle, and those that they've blown the whistle on have sailed off into the sunset whilst their careers have been, negatively affected.
Yeah, I should add that most people who do report don't report that they've suffered. However, too large and big a number of people have reported that they have suffered negative consequences. Remarkably, the findings suggest that being female is associated with a 16% increase in the likelihood of suffering negative consequences. In our Integrity at Work survey conducted in 2023 with around 1,000 people, found that 50% of those who reported that they suffered negative consequences were women, 37% were men. So there's a lot of work to be done in Irish workplaces to see that women can be assured that when they speak up, they'll be taken seriously when they do so. And this points to another issue highlighted in our survey data and in our work with people calling our helpline. And that is that too few people have confidence in their employers that action will be taken. Employers seem to be satisfied that they would take action if wrongdoing was reported to them. Employees don't share that same confidence, and that's particularly so for women. So there's a lot of work to be done to put in place policies and procedures at organizational level, whether you're working in the public or private sector, to see that action is taken when someone reports.
So interesting. I'll ask a bit more about the survey itself, though. Is this for business leaders or managers to take note as well? Obviously, sometimes people could shoot from the hip or try and approach these things casually, but it's very much in the business's decision to have a process in place to deal with anything that comes up, because you could end up paying the price down the line anyway.
Any employer who takes risk seriously will have policies and procedures in place. However, what we notice or what we see from the survey data is that just over 30%, less than 40% of employers have policies and procedures in place to deal with concerns of wrongdoing. And our data also suggests that the biggest factor in determining a positive outcome is the availability of supports externally. So it's important that employers are both able to receive and act on concerns, but also that they point their staff, their workers, to external supports, whether that's a trade union, a lawyer, or Transparency International Ireland Speak Up helpline. That is the safest way to see that people report without suffering any negative consequences, and to see that action is taken in response to those concerns.
Okay. Right, so the Speak Up Report 2025, you picked out one highlight there. Actually, sorry, I just want to ask a question if the answer is there. Do we know from any trends or investigation as to why women who blow the whistle face negative consequences more than men?
I think there's a legacy issue here. Women are much more likely to suffer discrimination in the workplace, harassment, bullying. There's a great deal of data available and research conducted into the experiences of women in workplaces, not just an Irish phenomenon either. So the deck is stacked against women in workplaces to begin with. So it's no surprise to find that they will have less confidence than the male counterparts that something will be done when they do report wrongdoing. And it's important that we are able to identify the problem at organizational level. So where information is shared, where protected disclosures are made, employers should be disaggregating the data. In other words, they should be able to tell how many women, how many men are reporting, track their experiences, and use that to improve their systems. They also need to as I said, make their workers aware of the availability of supports, and also be welcoming more of anonymous disclosures. One of the biggest factors determining whether people have confidence in an employer's systems is the ability to be able to share information anonymously in the first instance, so as to build trust with the recipient of that.
But the recipient then has to make sure there's very clear and fair guidelines in place to pursue that.
Exactly, and then they are then able to share the information about their identity. So, as I said, there's a lot of information available on this. People want to go to our website, speakup.ie.
Okay, and one question, my default would have been, you raise a concern, it doesn't go your way, you feel it being impacted, you contact you guys. But in reality, the data shows that you're far better off being preemptive, aren't you? To whether it is the likes of your organisations or another, to get external advice or engage externally before raising your concerns. That can limit the negative consequences.
Yeah.
Or reduce them, sorry.
Data here and in the UK suggests that the vast majority of people, somewhere in the region of 90% of people, want to report internally first. They want to report to a line manager, a compliance officer, whoever it might be, because they want it dealt with quickly, and they want to make sure that they whatever wrongdoing is highlighted is addressed. However, they also want to be able to seek advice on reporting in the first instance. So employers need to make their staff available of their staff aware of the availability of these supports before they report. That advice will be given in confidence. It doesn't mean that we'll encourage people to report to the press or to go on social media and air their company's dirty linen in public. What we want to do is make sure that those staff, those workers, have all the information they need to make an informed decision, so that when they report to their line manager or senior management, they can do so safely and in the knowledge that what they're reporting is actually backed up with information, and that they're aware of their rights too.
And often this is for a smoother running of the organisation, a better working environment, potentially better customer experience. It's not something I think people should be afraid of. Thank you so much. Where can we see this report if we want to? There's a lot in it, okay? So where can we access it if we want to look through it a bit more?
Yeah, well, we're launching the report at noon today.
Okay.
So if people want to log on to integrityatwork.ie, they'll find the details there. And they can find the report itself on transparency.ie. So they'll either be able to join us this afternoon or log on and find the report there. We'll also make the recording of the event available on YouTube. So if people want to find us there, they can do so as well.
No doubt a busy morning, so we appreciate your time. Look after yourself.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a million.
That's John Devitt there, Chief Executive with Transparency International Ireland.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
How are you, Louise?
I'm really busy. I'm hoping it won't be like last year when we had flu in our house. I had to take so much time off work.
I took the kids to the pharmacy last year for the free flu vaccine. It's just a simple nasal spray to protect us.
Great idea. I'll book mine in.
Quick and easy. The nasal flu vaccine is free for all children 2 to 17 years old. If nasal spray isn't suitable, an alternative is available. Visit ipu.ie for more information. Brought to you by the Irish Pharmacy Union. Kindly supported by AstraZeneca.
Pick up extra special offers this week at Dunnes Stores. With selected wines like Dada Malbec or Connoisseur and Oyster Bay Sauvignon Blanc, €10 or less. And grab Deal 4 of our 12 deals of Christmas, with 18-pack cans of Club Orange, Pepsi Max and 7-Up Zero. Now just €9. Plus, save more with your 10/50 voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Vouchers can be used on next grocery shop. Excludes alcohol. Please drink sensibly. Deposit return scheme fees apply.
AI isn't just for tech experts, it's for all. With Skills to Advance, turn curiosity into capability through artificial intelligence microqualifications. Learn about everyday AI applications and how they impact you. Discovering how AI works helps you make informed decisions as you engage with new technologies shaping your daily life. Talk to your local education and training board today about upskilling or visit skillstoadvance.ie. Skills to Advance, supported by Solus and the Government of Ireland.
If you need an eye test, look no further than Louis Walsh Opticians. Letterkenny's longest established opticians are delighted to welcome patients new and old to their state-of-the-art practice in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. Their latest technology includes a 3D OCT retinal camera, which assesses the health of your eyes in minutes. Private, medical card and PRSI patients welcome. Call 91 21000 to arrange your eye test.
Louis Walsh Opticians, Letterkenny. Your vision, our focus.
Okay, so Tessie was in contact with us a little earlier on. It's not the greatest problem in the world, but she's frustrated. She's boiling her spuds, and when she prods them, half the spud seems perfectly cooked, the other half undercooked. And as she continues to boil them, when the undercooked side reaches the cooked status, the previously cooked side is overdone. And she's going, what's going on here? This is, as I say, Tessie. Right, now Charlie Doherty is of Doherty Potatoes in Burt. Hi, Charlie.
Greg, how are you getting on?
I'm doing good. Didn't think I was going to be talking about half-cooked spuds today, but you know what, Charlie? That's what we do here. Public service broadcasting at its best. So what's going on?
Yeah. It's mostly it'll be down to, let's say, extremely dry weather in the summertime when they're growing, and just if they're too dry for too long, they take this glassy centre. That's what they call it, this glassy centre in them, and it just won't bother. They're bad spuds, really. Now, I would imagine the spuds would come from more down the country. They had a drier summer down there than they had Donegal. We had a really good growing summer, but we had plenty of moisture along with it, and spuds grew well. But down the country, I heard of a few issues down there with that glassy centre, and they had a longer summer, so. I would imagine. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd imagine that's the came from down the country.
Right. So the first solution then, Charlie, would be to buy Donegal spuds then.
Local spuds, yeah, that would be a good idea to start with, is right. Yeah.
And keep doing it, as you would say, keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And,
yeah.
It's an interesting phenomenon. So, are they just bad spuds for boiling? Or are they just bad spuds full stop?
Yeah, there's nothing. It was just down to the season, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whoever has them would need to be just dumping them for cattle feed, because there's no way of curing them or improving them. They are what they are, and that's the way they're going to be. The problem with maybe the farmer doesn't even know them if he hasn't cooked them himself. So it's only when you actually boil them, they look perfect, they look 100%. But it's only when you actually go to boil them that you'll find this. But that's the issue anyway.
That's remarkable, fascinating stuff. And I suppose you get good and bad years. It's that type of a product.
Yeah, you're tied to the seasons. We still have spuds to harvest yet. We had a fair run there a couple of weeks ago. There was a good week and we got most of them in, but there's still a bit to dig yet. So they're out in the fields yet now. But hopefully we'll get a spell yet before the year's out. And get them dug. But that's always spuds is always a high risk to grow. There's all kinds of issues can crop up, because you're up against the elements, of the weather.
Frost would be your enemy now, would it?
Frost is the big one. Yeah. With the wet, we can handle the wet as long as they're not flooded. But the frost now would be the big one. All right. So hopefully, climate change maybe is a good thing for us. We won't get the frost. Hopefully.
So
the trouble is we get too much moisture. That's one thing.
So as a spud grower, then we had a decent balance with dry weather and ground moisture and ground temp and all that kind of stuff. Then
Donegal, Donegal definitely was an excellent growing year. We got them in there. They were a good spring. We got them in early, and then there's plenty of heat during the year and enough moisture as the year went on. So. But that can be, at the same time, that can be our Achilles heel, because we have good yields across the board, even down the country and even in Europe and that there's good yields. So prices are not looking too good, And that's another thing I was going to say to you is there's a lot of chat this last few weeks about prices, prices of food rising, and it's up so many percent, but it is down in price this year,
But that's as a grower. Are they down in the supermarkets as well, price wise?
I would say they are back a bit, all right, but maybe not where they should be. And actually, the big one would actually be on the catering business. Your peel spud. I don't know if they're coming back much. If you take your spuds on the plate, that your mashed potatoes in the plate, I would say the farmer's lucky to be getting. He'd be lucky to get 10p out of that,
Wow.
What's in there.
If
even, because the prices were really on the floor there.
But it's a cruel game, Charlie, isn't it? Because if you have a good year, everyone else has a good year, Europe has a good year, and next thing, that year where you should be banking it, the price of the raw material goes down, yet your input costs are still the same, and yet you could have a year struggling, and the prices go through the roof, but you don't have enough product to benefit from
that's
that.
right. Well, I suppose...
Are you mad in spuds, Charlie? What are you doing in spuds? You must be mad, are you?
Well, I'll tell you, if a gambler was a farmer, he'd be growing spuds, because it is a very gambly crop, and you can make good money on it, but it's when you're struggling, but you could lose your shirt in it very handy too. And this year, looks like we could be losing our shirtons, to be honest
I
with you.
hope not. Okay.
You know?
Yeah, well, listen, Charlie,
Well, hope for the best.
continued success and the best chance of getting good spuds, actually. And we're not just saying this is in the northwest here because the weather lent itself best. Charlie, thanks for that. All right. Go ahead.
Support the local as well, yeah.
Support the local, exactly. And cuts down the carbon footprint because you're not having to bust them all over the place. Thanks, Charlie. Charlie Doherty of Doherty's Potatoes there. An interesting insight. And what is interesting as well, randomly, we've been very busy on the phones just in case Shelley thought she was on her own. You're not. A caller says, yes, the same with my spuds, some not cooked. That comes in from Patricia. Steaming the potatoes should cook them evenly. When boiling the potatoes in the pot, they should be completely covered by water. If the potatoes are large, you could cut them in half. All right, maybe not a bad idea there. I noticed it too, says a listener. As someone who grew up in a farm, I think it's because they are from cold storage from last year. Another, that's interesting, Greg. I mentioned this to my potato man at the weekend, and he was not happy and couldn't really give me an explanation for it. And another, I found that if I boil them, and once they're a little past parboiled, drain them, leave them a very small amount of water and put a bit of tinfoil over them, continue to boil at a low heat, they will even out and you'll have a lovely potato, which really worked for me. Isn't it interesting, though? There's actually science to it. It's down to the weather. Boiling spuds, the size of the spuds. If you want to boil a large spud and also a small spud, cut them in half, make them all the same size so they all cook at the same time. Another spud's much better steamed than boiled. You won't have the bother then. Another, yes, the same with my spuds, some not cooked. Yeah, indeed, a lot of you experiencing the same. Re-spuds, drain, cover with a clean cloth or paper towel, put them back on the lowest heat until fully cooked. I find a lot of blight on my potatoes, asks another, why is this? And one more before the break. They are floury spuds, very tasty, but need to be steamed because they're so floury. That comes in from breed. This glass centre too that we heard there is an interesting dynamic. Right, I am going to take our quarter to break a little early because that will clear the decks up to 11 o'clock to answer your questions about the local property tax. Because there are changes and the changes are confusing or people don't even know they're there. We're going to go through that, but keep your questions coming in. We've had loads. We can accommodate more. 086 60 25,000. Any questions about the local property tax?
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Seasonal loans now available for Christmas. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Kira?
Yeah?
Is that a cow in the garden?
Oh, it's a bull.
What?
Well, you said you wanted to grab one by the horns.
But not an actual bull. I just meant I want to make the most of my PRSI at Specsavers.
Oh.
Get a free eye test and a pair of glasses from our €70 range through your PRSI. Book at specsavers.ie with your PPS number and we'll check you're eligible. After all, you've earned it. Terms and conditions apply.
Scaring the milkman now, look.
Join EirGrid, the operator and developer of the electricity grid, on Thursday, November the 6th at the Central Hotel in Donegal Town from 6:15 to 8:30pm for the EirGrid Energy Citizens Roadshow. This free event will provide information about home energy efficiency upgrades, retrofitting grants, community microgeneration schemes, and the future of energy in Donegal. To register for the roadshow, visit airgrid.ie/roadshows. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland.
Discover Centra Simple Savers, your go-to for great value. Like buy any Caramico chilled pizza plus a side or dessert for just €10. Coke Zero and Diet Coke 2 litre, €2 each plus deposit. And Casiero Del Diablo, €8. Enjoy simple prices on all your favourites. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
It's the Right Price Tiles wood flooring and bathware 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles wood flooring and bathware. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
So, what's your favourite tool? For some it's their hammer, passed down from their dad with just the right balance, or that new go-to impact driver. Here's a tool that's sure to become your new favourite, the new Screwfix app. Download today to browse, check stock, get exclusive offers and quicker collection when you check in the app. The new Screwfix app, your new favourite tool.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Our Christmas shop has now opened for all your festive shopping needs. Explore our extensive range of decorations, bedding and more in our homeware department, in-store or shop online at mcelhinneys.com today.
All right, let's have a look at that weather forecast. And a dull and blustery day with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, turning more persistent through the afternoon and evening. Rain, though, will clear eastwards later this evening. Temperatures 13 to 15 degrees. Louise Whelan is Assistant Principal, Local Property Tax, Vacant Home Tax with Revenue Commissioners. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me this morning.
Right, so what is happening to the LPT in terms of changes? Are the bands changing? Do we just need to reevaluate our properties, or what's going on?
Yeah, so basically what's after happening is Revenue have written to 1.5 million customers in relation to the 2.2 million properties that are registered in the state. And what we're asking them, every customer to do, is to determine the valuation band of their property as at the 1st of November 2025, to submit the return including that valuation band by the 7th of November 2025, and within that return to either pay at that point or to make arrangements to pay for the 2026 period.
How do we value our property?
So the easiest way to value the property is to actually go online and to use the LPT portal, which is available. That's the easiest way to file your return and to value your property. Revenue does have an interactive tool available within the notes online, the information, and you can use that to help with valuing your property. We would ask that you do consider the condition and features of your own property. And the valuation tool is only a guide. You know, it's an average, an estimate of your property and the property within your own area. So what we would ask is that we would say there's no need to go on and get a professional valuation. It's not necessary. We would ask you to make a very fair assessment. It is a self-assessed tax. And maybe you can use the property price register and look at that and have a look at properties that have sold in your own area, similar to your own property. Have a look on Daft or have a look on myhome.ie, just to give you an idea. And as I said, it is a self-assessed tax. So we do ask people to give a fair valuation of their own property.
How do you factor in defective concrete blocks in the valuation of your property?
Yeah, so in relation, obviously Donegal is one of those counties that qualifies for the defective concrete block exemption. So if you are actually one of those qualifying properties, and how you will know that is if you've been approved by the Donegal County Council, or if an insurance company will substantiate your claim, or if the builder of the property has given some recognition in relation to the defective concrete block. So those are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. So what we would ask is that you make contact with us, and it is possible to claim an exemption for the defective concrete block.
You don't actually have to be on the scheme potentially to claim that exemption?
Yes, you would have to be on the scheme.
What I don't understand about that is
there are a couple of...
You said just in earlier comments, you said to take into consideration the general condition of your building. Now, there might be those who are listening who are waiting to apply for the scheme or don't have the initial €700 to get the visual assessment. If you are being honest and you are assessing your property and you say the corners of my house are falling off, therefore my house is worthless, so you're saying Revenue won't accept that as an honest determination of the condition of your property?
Now, all of these, as I say, a lot of these cases are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of actually claiming the exemption, you do have to be on the scheme, just to be clear about that.
Of course. Well, I'm on about actually even factoring into the value of your property. Sorry, I maybe picked you up. Yeah, I understand the exemption, and you do, of course, need to be on the scheme for that, whether people agree with that or not. But I'm on about in terms of valuing your property in the bands. Okay, can you factor into the fact that your house would be in the lower band because it has defective concrete blocks, or you suspect it has, whereas ordinarily it might be in the higher or the very highest band for that matter? So is that a legitimate thing to put on the form to reduce the value of your property?
It is a legitimate thing to put on the form, but what we would ask is, for all of those cases, if you have made any attempt or any sort of, if you have any paperwork, just to support your claim, and you can submit that to revenue to support your valuation if any questions are asked at a later date.
Okay, so do you need that on hand in case their questions are asked at a later date, or does that need to be submitted at the time of the valuation?
No, it doesn't need to be submitted at the time of the valuation. What we would ask, and this goes for all valuations of properties, if you can keep any supporting documentation that, like, whatever the case may be, to support how you have valued your property and why you have valued it in that particular valuation band, then all of that will be taken into account if revenue have any questions at a later date.
And it is the sale price that the potential sale price that you're
It is.
Okay.
It's market value, yeah. So the potential sale price of your property as at the 1st of November.
So what are the bands at the moment?
Yeah, so the bands at the moment have actually been widened. And that is to take into consideration the property price increase across the country. So we'll say, so if you even take band one has expanded from up to €200,000. That's now gone up to €240,000.
From what's the lowest end of that? Sorry, is the lowest end of that zero?
Zero.
Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously if you take, say, band 2, which would be another very popular band, would be, that is now, it's gone from 200,000 starting to 240,000, and that goes up to 315,000, and that comes with a charge of €235 plus the local. Donegal now would have the 15% local adjustment factor, so that would have to be added on as well.
What happens if I do nothing?
Well, if you do nothing, it is a self-assessed tax, as I say. If your property is already registered, you will be hearing from us at, once all the returns have been filed. We will be writing out to you again. If you have never registered, we would encourage you to absolutely register your property and to contact us and to make arrangements, and maybe we can assist you with that.
A couple of people are texting in saying that they did this and there was no increase in their tax. Have they done something wrong? We're not getting into the politics of it, but there was some opposition politicians suggesting that lots and lots of people will pay more. We're not getting into that because that's not what this is about. But what percentage of people might find themselves having to pay more local property tax, broadly speaking?
The whole idea of the widening of the bands and the reduction of the rates. So we'll say the bands widened to take into consideration an over 25% increase across the country. And then the rate of local property tax has actually been decreased to 0.0906%. So that's gone down as well. So what the whole idea was that we were hoping not to put an extra burden on the customers. There are some bands that obviously if your property has increased hugely in certain areas, that you may end up going up a band. But it also means that some customers, if you take in Donegal, even for instance, if your house was worth 400,000 in 2021, you would have been paying €466, including the local adjustment factor. But for the 2026 charge, you'll be paying 428. So that's a reduction of 9%. So, but if you were in the lower bracket, you would pay an increase of €5.
Revenue are charged with collecting this tax and administrating it, but from an official position, is there a position that you have or within revenue as to what the LPT is actually for, what the tax is for?
Yeah, so all of the LPT tax that is collected is paid over to the local government management agency, and they are the management agency for the county councils across the whole country. So all of the LPT, so revenue, while it is the collection agent, it doesn't actually hold on to the local property tax, and it doesn't go into the daily exchequer figures. That money is paid over daily over to the local management agency.
And it's up to the local authorities to do with that what they want?
Yeah, well, it's the management agency, the local authority management agency, they divvy that out according to the different counties, and there's a number of different criteria used for how much each county council gets. But in effect, it's the county councils to administer
That is
what they want to
okay.
do with those funds.
My father died a couple of years ago. The house is still in his name. Revenue want the PPS number. Do we use his PPS number? But then it risks, are you the person liable?
Yeah, so what that is basically the family, once probate is taken out, the ownership of the property will change hands. So the family have a number of different options available to them there. They can make contact with us and they can defer the payment until probate is settled, or they can make arrangements to pay through their solicitor or the executor of the will. And that those funds then can come out of the estate of the deceased person.
How do you self-value your home, says the listener? If it's 80 plus years old and needs refurbishment, just because it's big, it doesn't mean it's valuable. You honestly value it. I presume it will be your response. You say, well, what is the value of this property in its current condition if you were to put it to market?
Yeah, and that's what we're asking people to do, is to self-evaluate. Now, I know some people may wish to get a professional valuation, but as I said already, it's not something that we encourage, or we don't want to put extra expense on customers. But we do ask that if they were to put it to market in the morning, what would they think the property would fetch at? And if they can have any sort of supporting documentation that can support that, 100% hold on to that. Just in case there's ever a query.
Keep the receipts
and just on the other hand of that is, if you have purchased a property recently, and you know the purchase price is the valuation of the property.
If you received the letter for the LPT and the valuation is the same as you would value it, do you need to fill out the form, or is it okay to just let it go?
No, you'd need to fill out the form. So this is because it's a new valuation. Every single property has to be revalued. So what we need you to do is to confirm that valuation. So if you have received an estimate, and anybody who has received a letter, it is just an estimate that's on the form. What we're asking you to do is, Revenue have given you an estimate, and we're asking you to confirm that, or to increase or decrease it depending on the valuation band you fall into, and assign the amount that you're due to pay.
I always pay the LPT in the post office at the start of January by producing the LPT letter. So what happens if I have to send back the same letter this week?
Yeah, so you do actually have to. So even if you do go on to pay in the post office, you still need to send Revenue a return. And that return will cover you for the next 5 years. So this is the valuation as at the 1st of November 25. And that return will cover you for the next 5 years, okay, up until 2030. And so you still have to let Revenue know that you that is the valuation of your property, and you need to file a return. And the easiest way to do that is online. If you can't do that online, what I encourage you to do is to phone our phone line, and that's on 017383626, or send us an email via My Inquiries, or you can post us a letter on PO Box. It's a free post number, PO Box number 1, and that's in Limerick.
Where do you get your property ID and PIN?
If you have a property, every correspondence will have your property ID and PIN on the letter.
Okay.
If you don't have a letter and you need, just make contact with us, and we'll be able to assist you, and we'll give you your property ID and PIN. Or you can actually go online and self-serve, and the PIN will be sent out to you automatically.
I've a new self-build since August. I've registered for LPT following a letter, but no follow-up since with numbers, PIN, etc. Do I need to take any action?
Yeah, what I would ask is if you could try and make contact with us. But once, just to reassure, once people have made contact with us, we will get back to everybody. We are obviously, this week is extremely busy, and I know it's extremely busy on the phone lines, but what we would ask is that you make contact with us. And once you've initiated that contact and sent in your query, we will get back to you at some stage.
And very finally, just to clarify, exemptions from LTB, LPT, if you have defective concrete blocks, it's only if you've been accepted onto the scheme, is that correct?
Yes, if you've been accepted onto the scheme, or you have a successful insurance claim. If you go onto the Revenue website, there's a load of information on there. If you're unsure, again, please contact us, send in your query, either via My Inquiries again, or give us a phone call. But yes, most definitely. And it's only for if you're within, as you'll say, for your own county in Donegal, we'll say, they do qualify for the scheme, but for any border counties that may not qualify for the scheme, if you claim the scheme, you won't be, you will be able to go online and claim an exemption, but once we review that exemption, it won't be successful.
Okay, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it. That's
all right. Thanks very much.
Bye. Laura Whelan there, Assistant Principal, Local Property Tax, Vacant Home Tax with Revenue Commissioners. Back after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Shannon Airport has handy parking, famously short queues, great people, seamless security and amazing destinations. It's the shortcut to your next holiday, like Broadway in New York, croissants in Paris, tapas in Madrid, or reindeer rides in Lapland. So whatever the destination, enjoy a hassle-free airport experience. Shannon Airport, making it easy.
Tá muchiiste don tauchi, an scéim nua coigeltis skur, lena glaro verdien go huaibrich, ag tacht go lua. Curran tosa arigadisteach, curran de ostor arigadisteach, agus curran an stad, bresh arigadisteach ar a vor. Balach intagata an, chan arigad a hawail to de hauchi, agus tu ag tnu le lasawant as luach de heir. Mata tille oldashwit, tur koort gov.ie /auto-enrollment. Tachteracht o Realtas na Héireann.
From the morning routines to cozy family moments, Grant has been bringing comfort to homes for over 45 years. With our biofuel-compatible condensing boilers, heat pumps and underfloor heating, you can trust Grant to heat your home now and into the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
At Maple, we know our customers are the heart of our stores. So this month, we're saying thank you. Spend €15 or more and you'll be entered to win a thank you from Maple hamper, packed with treats to enjoy. T's and C's apply. And while you're here, why not pre-order your Christmas hampers? The perfect way to make the season extra special. Shop local at Maple Express Carrigart, Fulcara or Castlefin, or at your local Maple store. Fresh, local, convenient. Follow your local Maple store on Facebook for more.
Join Connolly's in Letterkenny for Volkswagen's 75th birthday sales event this November 3rd till 8th. Celebrate a big birthday for Volkswagen with big savings for you on 261. Enjoy competitive finance and APR for a limited time only. Book a test drive with Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny sales team on Canal Road. Order your 261 at connolly's.ie. Terms and conditions apply. Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to noon show on Highland Radio.
It's 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update. Good morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Letterkenny could have a new bridge and Ballybofey could secure a bypass within the next 7 years. Members of Donegal County Council have received an update on the 10T road project, projected to be the biggest ever investment in Donegal's road network. The three-phase project will see the delivery of the Twin Towns bypass, a new road between Ballyrain and Bonnygee, incorporating that new bridge over the Swilly, and a new road from the Manor roundabout to Lifford, linking with the A5. More details and a series of maps available on highlandradio.com. Donegal Today and Sinn Féin finance spokesperson Piers Doherty says the government has misled homeowners over changes to the local property tax. He says ministers had promised most people wouldn't see an increase, but many are now moving onto higher bands. Revenue has extended the deadline for submitting property valuations until this Saturday, giving homeowners extra time to file their returns online. A leading fishing industry spokesperson is calling for an in-depth investigation on how state agencies treat and approach the sector. It's after a Killybegs-based fish exporter was found not guilty on 2 charges relating to the alleged failure to ensure the accuracy of equipment used for the weighing of fish. After a 3-day trial at Letterkenny Circuit Court last week, the jury delivered the not guilty verdict on the direction of the trial judge, who cited a lack of evidence in the case. And again, that full conversation between Greg Hughes and Brendan Byrne on today's 9 till noon show can be heard on highlandradio.com. A suspect case of avian flu has been found in a commercial poultry premises in County Tyrone. Disease control measures have this morning been initiated by the North's Department of Agriculture at the premises near Pomeroy. The Chief Veterinary Officer for Northern Ireland, Brian Dooher, says he's taken the decision based on a number of factors, including clinical science and preliminary test results. And almost half of all special schools have teacher vacancies, according to a new survey published this morning by the Irish National Teachers Organisation. Schools in disadvantaged areas have 3 times more long-term vacancies than mainstream schools. The survey on teacher shortages also shows 43% of Gaelscoileanna reporting long-term vacancies. They're the headlines. Back with the headlines again at 12 noon.
Thanks so much, Donald. Back with more after the break.
Every year, about 2,500 people in Ireland get bowel cancer. Bowel screening helps to reduce your risk of developing it. If you're aged 58 to 70, register for a free bowel screen test kit. Once you've done the test at home, return it by free post and we'll test your sample. If you need follow-up tests, we'll let you know. Register today at bowelscreen.ie or free phone 1-800 45 45 55 from the HSE.
Okay, some of your messages as it relates to local property tax coming in a little late. A caller says, I've tested for defective blocks, but I'm not on the scheme. Do I have to pay the LPT or not? The answer is yes. But you can give it its lowest valuation, I presume. Arguably the house in and of itself, what is it worth? Another caller says, I paid, but I didn't value my home. I guess its value as I couldn't afford the estate agent's fee. Do I do it right, or how's that working? Well, you don't have to pay to get it valued officially. You can go on to certain websites, Daft, others, My Home. You'll see houses that have sold in your area. Listen, it's a guesstimation. I think really the bands are broad. The idea being, and I'm not doing revenues work here, that you should have some idea from within which band your house falls, and you can factor stuff in as well. A caller says it's ridiculous that you have to be on the scheme, Greg. The worst, though, is we in Donegal have consistently been the first every term to have the maximum 15% increase to LPT when they know there is thousands with homes which are worthless. The one thing I'll say about that is it's not a 15% increase every year. It's a retention of the 15% increase year on year. So it's not going up 15% every year. They are voting often to retain the plus 15%, to reduce it back to zero, or I think you can go 15% the other way. So it's not going up 50%. This is not going to make you feel any better. But the vote isn't to increase it every year by 15%. It's whether you retain it or not. A caller says, as an older person, I have no access online. What do I do? Well, call us back. We've got a telephone number there if you can't source it yourself, and ring them up. I live alone and I'm a pensioner. It is any cheaper for me. I really can't afford it. I'm very sorry that you're in that situation. I really am. And that's the truth, Often we sort of are discussing about which band we're in, or it's unfair, or where does the money going? And there's people out there that literally don't have the money to pay it. It's another bill that they can't meet. What are we getting in return for LPT? Paying for rubbish, etc. Rural area in Fanna. James, thanks. Well, you heard from Revenue themselves. That money's passed on to the council, and it's up to the council to do with it what they do. It's often ring-fenced for match funding for projects, etc. Right. Let's say good morning to Brendan Devaney, presenter of the DL Debate. Brendan, how are you getting on?
Good, Greg. What's a crack, kid?
I'm all right. How are you? I haven't seen you in ages.
Yeah, we've missed each other,
Yeah. Between the jigs and the reels.
The jet set lifestyle of yours,
Jet set. You're looking well anyway. Right, on this week's show, looking back at all the Ulster Club action from the weekend. It's hurling and football, so there's lots going on.
That's it, yeah. Bird at a victory in the junior championship over Castlewell and St Unions. I was at the game yesterday in the park, obviously coming up short against a very good Aero Carrickmore side. Now, they give it their all. They put themselves in a position in the second half where there was a chance, but I think overall Carrickmore were a bit better. 16 champions there in Tyrone, Greg, so it was a difficult one. Karen Donna then in the football in the junior championship against a very good Emmyvale team, one of probably the favourites of the competition. They only lost by a point, a bit controversial too. A late free was given against them, Greg. It looks like it was heading to extra time. Our own Park Hilfery was down at the game, so he's coming on the show this evening to talk a bit about that. There's under 21 championship as well. We had the honours were given out at our Donegal Sports Awards, the GA Awards at the weekend there as well, down in Donegal town. Jim McGuinness was present, and it was a good weekend. A lot happening.
Yeah, and a lot of general conversation as well. They're interesting reading in the back of the Donegal News. Donegal senior football manager Jim McGuinness views the McKenna Cup as a real opportunity for players to showcase themselves as they begin their plans for the 2026 campaign. Throwing the gauntlet down there, prove yourself. There's a spot for whoever shows.
There's 18 new names on there, Greg. Yeah, he's bringing in 18 guys to have a look at this, and that's all part of it, and test people out, see what they're at after we had a great club championship here right across the board. So last year, remember, the McKenna Cup was scrapped, so we went straight into the National League, and a wee bit cold, some people were saying. So it's been fitted into the calendar this year, so it's a great chance because gives people a chance, I suppose, to kind of find a way into the season, to find a feet, but also for managers like Jim to give people a chance, because it's difficult then in the league. Like, I know it worked well for us last year because we were safe with a couple of games to go and we were allowed to play players and that, but that's not always guaranteed, and you want to stay in the top flight, so it can be hard sometimes to blood players in games like that. So McKenna Cup's perfect.
Is there any risk at all in using big enough competitions to experiment, or is that just part of the game now?
Yeah, well, the fact is McKenna Cup, and listen, we've got no disrespect, nobody's that worried about winning it. It is about a pre-season competition, but in many ways, it's four things you got to get players up to fitness. So whenever the league kicks off, everybody's good to go, and I suppose that's a real big competition then leading into the championship. So the McKenna Cup is just it's like a warm-up kind of competition. So perfect for that kind of thing, Greg. And yesterday as well, I left the hurling, went over to Mount Errigal there. St. Eunan's had a bit of an underage thing, and it's just funny when you're at things like that, Greg. You see how much now, if you look at St. Eunan's, for example, they're placed in club football and in county football and in Donegal, and what they're doing in the park. And all clubs are at that, obviously. I'll be out at Bunagee with the wee lads, but it's something very special you're seeing now is clubs are really growing into the community, and they're an important place in it. And the personalities is there, and the kids and the joy, but the coaches and the involvement in it. And I think it's something. Listen, I'm not, as I say, it's across the board in many clubs, but it was so nice to see yesterday. You've got a real community element, and it would always been there, I think, for the likes of GA or different soccer teams and that. But I think the way things are so organised for kids and that now, and the parents being there and involved, it really is getting into a massive community thing. And with the new working on at the Donald Park there's another pitch going down, there's a walkway going around, it's going to be lit up, and that will be open to everybody, Greg. And even the likes of Unions there do in the winter now, they would do some coaching down in the Aura, and it's for everyone to come, which I think is a great sign of what you can do in a community with the GA to open it up, particularly for the kids.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great people doing it too, isn't it? In the various clubs around the county, certain halls on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. or whatever, where they probably would want to be home. They're at the end of a working day or whatever. The people that are out doing that work, obviously it's organised from the top down, but it comes down to brilliant volunteers doing that fantastic work you're talking of.
There was a time where we used to go to the shopping centre there down the Kenny to run about, so it was a large area to tear about, but much safer in the Aura there, and some wee bit of coaching going on. Good way to burn energy for the kids, particularly over the winter.
Yeah, for sure. And great way to get to know your neighbours as well. Right, so the DL debate tonight, just after 7 o'clock. Gaelic Life's Michael McMullen's going to be on the show. Porrick Hilferty, as you've heard, Brendan reference, he's on it as well. It's on the DL debate tonight, Monday evening, 7 p.m, or after the 7 p.m. news, and available then as a podcast, highlandradio.com. And there's not much downtime, is there, really, between the jigs and the reels? And I suppose, particularly for in-demand players, there's not much downtime in the 365 days of the year, is there?
Yeah, you look at it, Craig, obviously the under-21 championships going good guns there, and you have a lot of people there, lads, involved in that, involved in their senior team, involved in county squads, different ages, schools as well, colleges. So, yeah, sometimes it's something that's been addressed a lot about if you're a real top player, I see Van Barorte obviously deservedly won the Footballer of the Year, listen, I'm just looking at him here in the paper. He's always a lad that plays a smile on his face, but sometimes you just think, right, there's a lot of people looking for some of our players, and so many different codes. So it's a bit of a balancing act. But listen, if you ask them, what do you want to do? They want to play.
Yeah. And if you ask any 40 or 50-year-old, would they like that regime and be a top player? You'd say, yeah, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you might just need
at least you've done it, you see. As someone like me, I haven't done it, but at least you can reflect on memories, you bugger. All right, Brendan, listen, looking forward to the show, buddy. Take care of yourself. That's Brendan Devaney. The DL debate after the 7 o'clock news tonight, looking back on all the weekend's action and the big talking points. He's got Michael McMullen, Port Hilferty, etc. Okay, right, LPT, lots of you messaging in. I'm not surprised. I rang their helpline this past week and 5 times today. No response. They did say they were very busy, didn't they? Do you have the opportunity to leave a message? Because maybe that would qualify as engagement. Another caller says, if the councils are receiving all the LPT money, why are they adding on an extra 15%? We actually get more, I think, through equalisation. I mentioned this on the show last week. Is it okay to pay as usual in the post office, says the listener? That question was answered. Morning, Greg. Can you tell me why do we have to pay tax on our own house when the house is built on our own bit of land and we pay for the building of our house? The land and house was built with our money, so we paid tax on all that. So why do we have to pay tax on what we own? The government doesn't own our house. And I mean, if you wanted to go further down that line, what are you actually getting for it? And that is, I mean, we can highlight certain projects and this, that, and on, but they're, I think it would be more palatable if it covered refuge or if it covered access to community centres or so on and so forth. People might say, okay. But when you're paying a tax on something and it's not really terribly clear where that tax is going, I think it makes that tax feel even more unfair. A caller says, we think we registered our new valuation to revenue but received no mail in return as promised. Are we now registered? You should be able to go on to the LPT website and log on, and it should indicate there as well. A caller says, I paid my property tax as usual in the post office as I always do. Is this okay to do? A lot of you asking that, and she said, yes, I think. Another, if you're on the buy scheme from council, do you have to pay property tax? Another, I've not received a letter and cannot get through to their number and cannot remember my PIN number. I wonder, is your PIN number, can you go through the revenue website and get it there? Do you have any letter at all from them in relation to your LPT, either this year or previously? Because she said quite clearly that your property and PIN number is on any of that communication. Let me see Spuds. There's so many of you texting in relation to Spuds, which is funny. And loads of other topics as well. Thank you for that. I'll have to take the 1:15 break, though, and I'll come back with that and more guests very shortly.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
I love that we renew our commitment to each other every single year. And I love that you still send me post. My heart flutters when I open your envelope.
A TV licence. You don't have to love it, but you do have to pay it. It's the law. Get your TV licence now at tvlicence.ie or at any post office. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
TFI Local Link operates evening and weekend services throughout rural Ireland to help you stay connected 7 days a week. We know life doesn't just happen 9 to 5, so if you're commuting, shopping, visiting family, or going out in the evenings or on the weekends, let TFI Local Link take you there. Visit transportforireland.ie.
When it's gone, it's gone. This week's new Wigging at Home Store and More. All cookware sets are all half price. But better hurry, because when all our half-price cookware sets are gone, they're gone. Also, all baking trays and tins are still all half-price. But when our baking trays and tins and loose cutlery and cutlery sets Wiggings are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
At Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, the stars shine brighter. This isn't just a trip to the movies, it's a VIP experience. Sit back in luxury as your favourite pizza,
yummy,
hot food and a cold drink are delivered right to your seat in any studio. But for the ultimate treat, step into the Director's Lounge, our most popular destination. Enjoy the film, enjoy the food and savour the experience. Only at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now is 11:17. Welcome back. Spuds. To get the perfect boiled spuds, Pick spuds similar in size, or if there are bigger ones in your bag, cut the bigger ones in half or quartered similar to your smaller ones and cook in cold water from the beginning, not hot water, to speed up the cooking time, as hot water cooks the outside quicker than the inside, so you end up with hard bits. Once they come to the boil, turn down so you can see the water bubbling gently, and check periodically so you don't overboil. Always works for me. For this year's spuds, and this applies also to steamer cooked spuds, I am told. Cunningham potatoes are freshly dug in Carndonagh and they're yummy. Okay, thanks for that. Steam them. End of problem, says the listener. And on it goes. Thanks for all your comments coming in. Now, let's get from the horse's mouth the situation as it relates to the 10T project, which we're all watching with great interest, some in certain parts of the county more than others. Damien McDermott is Senior Engineer with the National Roads Office and joins us now. Damien, good morning to you.
How you doing, Greg?
Not too bad, not too bad. Right, so I suppose you've seen probably, or you'd be familiar with the reports that are out there in relation to where we're at with the 10T Road project. The timeline's in conversation really quite similar to a previous update we got from your office. So what is the situation as it stands then?
Okay, so we're at a very critical point of the project, which is obviously a very major project. So we've completed over the last couple of years our design, our environmental assessments, and we're just about to get ready to publish the scheme. It goes through as strategic infrastructure development to a commission Pinal, as they're called now, and that will also include the publication of the CPO and all the land acquisition requirements at the same time. So that's the stage where we're coming to. We're hoping to that now. Our aim is to have that happening in January, and that will commence the planning process for the scheme, which is the critical part of the scheme. So you had an analogy of horses there, from the horse's mouth. If this is a race, we get over every hurdle in the race. This is the Beech's Brook of hurdles that we have to get over, and we can't afford to fall or we're out of the race. So it's important that we get this published, get it done right, and hopefully get through the planning process, which is always the most difficult process for any major infrastructure project. And
across the county, what areas are we talking about? Just so everyone knows, because it's a massive project potentially.
Yes, there's massive projects. The project is in the order of almost €1 billion in value. There's 3 sections in it. The first section is a bypass of Ballybofey and Snawler, starting just south of the Roadhouse Bar, if you know that, on the N15, south of Ballybofey, and re-emerging again then going to the north of the town and re-emerging again then on the Letterkenny side of Kilross Junction. Okay. So that's basically that section. Now, and that includes very close. There's also a link then from there down on the N15 down back onto the Snawler Lifford Road as part of that scheme. So that's section 1. Section 2 then starts at Listillion and basically bypasses the Lurgy Brack section of the road that's there at the moment, crossing the dual carriageway in and around where Donegal Glass is there, approximately around there, and then heading across the Swilly to join up at the Creamery with a new junction at the Creamery roundabout, where the Creamery roundabout is at the moment. So there'll be a new crossing there. So basically a bypass to the south of Letterkenny, so to take some of the pressure off the 4-lane road and the N56 in the town. And the third section then really is an upgrade of the dual carriageway all the way through. That's including just taking off the direct access junctions such as Trimera, and then basically running all the way through from Manor Cunningham all the way through as a new road all the way through as far as Lifford, bypassing Lifford on the Ballybofey side and connecting there across the river to the potential A5 Western Transport Corridor in Strabane. The scheme also allows for, if the A5 isn't going ahead, there's always a chance of these things not progressing, that connects into the existing network there, and again to utilise the existing bridge anyway. So it works with or without the A5 in place. That's essentially the scheme. So it's 42 kilometres. There's 63 kilometres of active travel on the scheme. There is about 1,500 acres of land being acquired for the scheme, and there's over 500 landowners affected. And there's 34 properties being acquired, 4 commercial properties, and a number of uninhabited properties as well being
acquired. But given the scale of it, and this is notwithstanding, that someone might be upset or not, I can't go into. Given the scale of this project, would that be deemed a relatively low book of CPOs, so to speak, and a relatively low, given the scale of the project, to gain compared to others, a very low amount of house acquisitions, or is this in line with what you would have expected to see?
I think it's on par with what you would see. It all really comes down to the type of landholdings you go through. The more urban areas, you get more landowners, you get more plots. The more rural areas, you tend to have bigger farm holdings. We have a mixture of all that. So no, it's about average, I think, for such schemes. It's a very big scheme nationally. Like, it'd be bigger than Limerick Foynes and all these schemes. And again, you're going to probably through more countryside down there and bigger farms, so therefore you have less landowners. But no, in general, I think it's about on par.
So in terms of the CPOs, right, compulsory purchase orders, what does that actually mean? Does that mean there's been engagement with the property owners? Some have agreed, some haven't, and those that haven't are subject to CPO. So what does that actually mean in terms of this project, Damien? I presume there's been engagement, has there, with all of them?
There's been engagement. Yes, there's engagement. All landowners that we've been possible that we can contact have been. So there've been over 5,000 engagements. And there've been 16 public consultation events, and all the landowners have been met at one-to-one engagements, so wherever possible as well. So they've all been informed of what's happening, so they'll all be aware of what's happening. The next step, really, so they know what land is being acquired or if their property is being acquired. So all those people will be aware of that at this stage. Now, in some cases, there'll be owners and there'll be reputed owners, and there'll be maybe different people involved. But in general terms, they'll be all know what is happening at this stage. So the design has been tied down for a number of years now. As regards negotiation, that doesn't happen until we publish. And at that point then, everybody will receive a letter from us identifying what land has been acquired and a map of the land being acquired for the scheme. And basically then there's a process in place then by which they appoint experts on their behalf. We have our experts. And then there's a negotiation in respect to the purchase of those lands.
So
or
really,
property.
I think that answers it. So really, in this case, a CPO, it doesn't mean that negotiation agreement hasn't been reached. It's part of a process to say, look, this is where it's going. This is the system for acquiring land. But in the first instance, we will negotiate, speak, etc. Right? Because CPO has connotations, but we're not at that that point yet. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
The compulsory part really is that we are going to acquire the land. That's the compulsory part, not the negotiation. It's not as if there's a negotiation to be had at that point. And those always depending on how things go, they can be fairly quick. There's a whole process involved in that. And, we do our best to deal evenly and properly with everybody based on, current rates and all that. You get experts in, valuation experts in, that do the valuations on both sides. And we generally expect, and in most cases we do, looking at Burtonport Dunloe to Glenties, in 70-80% of cases, there's fairly rapid agreement on the prices. I think there'll be always cases where there'll be disagreements, and there's a procedure for dealing with those disagreements as we go forward as well.
Is the route
CPO, enable scheme to go ahead?
Is the route set now, or say, for instance, you landed at someone's farm and moving the road slightly might not break up a section of land, for an example? I'm just using a random example there, Damien. Is there still some slight negotiation on the trajectory of the road, or is that all locked in now?
No. That's all locked in, and that has been the focus of all the consultation to date. Where there are issues like that people want to resolve, we have tried to do that over the last number of years in the design modifications. But at this point, no, we're locked into this is the design, this is what we require to build the scheme, and everything that's in the CPO is required. So there can be no modification of that going forward.
All right, you made a list 1, 2, 3 of the stages of this. Now, of course, you have to start somewhere and end somewhere. But would it be envisaged that they would be done in an order, or that work would be ongoing on effectively all sites at the same time? Or would you do Ballybofey first, then move up to sort of Lurgy-Brack direction? How might that work, or is that even planned out at this stage?
Ideally, we'd probably like to see the whole lot commence at the same time, because obviously you don't want things to drag out too long if you start doing it in phases. But it certainly can be. There's scope because you have 3 distinct sections in the scheme, and probably even more than that if you want to break it down further, that it could be done that way. It'll all come down to government finances at the time, that probably the appropriate way of procuring the scheme. It'll come down to the capacity of the industry to deliver such a major scheme. Like we don't have an awful plethora of major contractors nationally to be able to deal with such a scheme. So those are factors that come into consideration, and really that'll all be thought of as soon as we get through the planning process, first of all.
Do you have any concerns, Damien? Do you have any concerns that the scale of this project might reduce the players to an extent that it could drive up the cost of it? Because it is so big, and I would say off air you could probably name, I don't know how many contractors you could name, and I wouldn't ask you to, that could take this on. Is there any concerns that we have sort of the competition to get this at a reasonable price, a good value for money at the taxpayer, to the taxpayer?
Yeah, well, that's all been part of the analysis we've done in the business case to date. That's all been looked at in that. And look, yeah, there would be some concerns that, but I mean, it's well flagged, the scheme. There are enough players out there. It's all about timing and as regards what other schemes are out there at the time. Now, we'll be the only scheme that'll be out there when this comes, if this goes through the process as we think. So we think it shouldn't be that much of an issue. And there's also the possibility for international players to come in, like we had when the motorway network was done around the country. So there are a lot of major projects happening in the country with Metro and all that. So there's probably more interest internationally in these products as well, potentially. Mm-hmm. So we'd hope that be the case.
I would say the worst thing any senior roads engineer might want to stick out there is timelines. But I think you did give a timeline. With everything with everything going to plan, a commencement of 2028, and potentially 5 years of works. Is that? I mean, how optimistic is that? How realistic is that? I mean, obviously, as I say, it's a length of string to some extent, but you put those dates out there.
Well, generally, look, we feel that that's absolutely doable. The key thing is the planning process. It all comes down to the level of objection to the scheme, the level of support for the scheme, and that there's no environmental issue arises that might cause us a problem at the planning process. The planning process is absolutely key to this. We've allowed for a year and a half for that. I mean, on board plan could come back, commission plan could come back and give us an oral hearing or make a decision scheme in a very short period of time, or they might not even get an oral hearing for next year at all. So like that's where the issue of the programme really lies. Other than that, I think once we get through the planning process, the delivery of the scheme then is fairly straightforward, as we know the path on it. It's difficult and there'll be a lot of work involved in it, but again, it's very straightforward. And again, the chance of doing it in phases, then we might be able to get ahead of that in getting sections done if we want to break it up that way, such as they've done down on the Adair bypass, for example, which is a good example of where they've gone ahead with a section so as to get the thing moving.
And I mean, everyone's been talking about this bridge for so long, Damien, and perhaps maybe we are on the brink of something. We're cutting up. I think it was Beeches Brook you talked of. If we get over that, like, would you look at it and go, right, can the scheme be divvied up in such a way that maybe priority could be given to that? Because you have to figure out how it would fit into elsewhere infrastructurally. But is there scope for something along those lines that maybe, right, listen, we can get work done on this bridge to begin with?
There is always scope for that. But look, all sections are very important, and I don't want to...
No, I know that. I do understand that.
Obviously,
I mean, Ballybofane Straw has
been... You come through Ballybofane every day, you know that yourself as well.
65 years.
So look, but there's also feasibility that you'd have two separate contracts running at the same time. There's all matter of ways of doing this. You could have a separate contract because all the sections have been designed in such a way that they can be delivered independently of the other sections.
Yeah, okay, but obviously the ideal is
we've done it that way on purpose.
The ideal is that you get it all done as quickly as is possible, and presumably maybe contractors would prefer to do it that way if they could scale. Did one eye in the papers today could be speculative about the bar being raised for objections. There's some reference of people having to be directly affected before they can object. I have a feeling that that's not going to impact on this project. I don't know if you even saw those reports, Damien.
No, it doesn't impact because the new Planning Act won't be in place for this scheme. This will be going in under the existing Strategic Development Act, which is good in a certain way because we know what that process entails. You obviously have those potential for judicial review and all that, so which seems to happen on most of our schemes these days. But look, we can only hope that we won't have that sort of level of objection and concerted effort to block the scheme. So we're hoping that doesn't arise in our case. But look, if it does, we have to deal with it. And schemes do come out at the end of that. I mean, other schemes, such as I said, limit fines would have been subject to those just reviews and have come out the other end of it. So it just means that it'll delay the process rather than stopping it in most instances.
Okay, I think we touched on everything there, Damien, that I wasn't privy to the presentation to councillors, but I think we touched on the most of it there, didn't we? There's a lot within your power, so to speak, and a lot outside of it, i.e., the purse strings being opened, etc. But I think we've covered most of it there. Okay, Damien, listen, thanks for your time and thanks for coming on. It makes it so much easier, and it's great to have access to the likes of yourself. It makes it so much easier than sort of speculating when we get it straight from the likes of yourself. So I appreciate that.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Have a good day.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Everybody has the right to be heard. If a person has a challenge with communication or decision making, there are many ways to enable their voice, such as meeting in person, using assistive technology, or together with their appointed decision supporter.
Respecting rights is a responsibility of all services, and it's the law.
My voice is my right. Assisted decision-making law means I decide.
Safeguardingday.ie from Safeguarding Ireland and the HSE.
The Three Amigos, Jimmy Buckley, Robert Mazzell and Patrick Feeney are back on tour. This award-winning show is full of laughter, music and song. See The Three Amigos live. Clonry Hotel, Letterkenny, Monday, January 26th. Tickets priced $39.50, now on sale at hotel reception and ticketmaster.ie, where extra charges may apply. The Three Amigos live. This show is not to be missed.
Monster Bingo every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel. €3,300 must go with €1,000 on the last page. Doors open 7:30. Bingo starts at 8:30. That's Monster Bingo this and every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel, Milford.
Looking ahead to 2026? Now's the time to order your 261 Kia at Heron Auto, Donegal Town. With 5 brand new Kia models arriving, there's never been a better time to upgrade. With smart design, a 7-year warranty and finance starting from 0%, Kia delivers style, comfort and performance you can rely on. Visit Heron Auto, Donegal Town. Secure your 261 model today. Drive with confidence, drive with Heron Auto.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Yes, indeed. Caller says Ballybofey and Stranraer is talked about from the early 1960s. How much longer? And Donald was just saying between the outbreak, he recounts an exchange at a council meeting whereby someone said or was protesting and stated, if we don't get a move on, we'll not see this road before 2010. And I think that's when it was going in the other direction, on the other side of Ballybofey, Stranraer. And here we are in 2025. Right. On this morning's Monday's Focus, we look at a new initiative on pen pals. Celine Kilcoyne is a transformational life coach and is with me now. Good morning, Celine.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing
thank you
good.
so very, very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a nice initiative as well. So talk to me about your thinking behind it.
Well, thinking about it is, I suppose, based on two stories. I suppose going back a while when I worked in healthcare, and a 6-bedded ward was like a microcosm of the world. And you had some patients who had no visitors at all. And I'd done my best to try and spend time with them because I was very much aware that they would see other visitors coming in to the other patients. And I suppose what really was the impetus for this was hearing two bachelors who were standing beside me one day, speaking of the fact of that they were going to write letters to themselves to get the postman to call to their door. And I would like to preempt this by saying post people are actually wonderful, I believe, in helping and supporting people who are lonely.
Sometimes it's the only person they see from one end of the week to the next.
Well, yes, and I suppose I want to say as well that the initiative complements that already are marvelous. That there are many groups, that are, you know, eh, actually, doing marvelous work, on this endeavour, and I want to note that as well. And definitely Highland Radio and local radios, I feel, play a massive part in this lifeline for people, connections, music, company.
Um, Loneliness and isolation saddens me greatly, especially when it affects older people, because in our rush to move forward or improve, we leave. Firstly, I question whether we are moving forward or improving, but we leave so many behind. And loneliness, isolation can have a very difficult impact on someone's their emotional well-being, their physical health, time, the concept of time, something we all take for granted, and anything we can do to address that. And let's not forget, we all got a taste of this during COVID, so you know what we're talking about here. Anything we can do to relieve that, we should be doing, Celine. How do you hope creating or engaging with pen pals might help?
Well, I personally believe because it's intergenerational, Greg, and I suppose at this point in time, it's school children and it's children in it's adults in youth reach centres. So I suppose receiving a letter and opening the letter, making a connection, it's a conversation. You can return to the letter, you respond to the letter, you build a connection with that person. I believe that it'll help both recipients, like it's the person writing the letter, receiving the letter, then responding to the letter. It's a very slow process. It's a building relationships, and only recently I've spoken to two people, one who spoke of that they received a letter after their father died, and in that letter they received stories actually about their father that they hadn't known of, and they would turn to that letter, picked it up time and time again.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And you know what? You could get institutionalized as well. So any contact with the outside world would be useful. So is this something you're proposing? Have you got a framework in place? Is it up and running? Where are you at, Celine, in trying to get this going?
Well, I suppose, just so you know, at the moment it is actually up and running in
Good.
both Sligo and Leitrim. I have collected letters, 36 letters, and delivered them to a resource centre. And just so you know the guidelines of what happened, I contacted the resource centre because they were delivering the Meals on Wheels. And one of the ladies kindly said to me to run with GDPR regulations, they would offer an opt-in letter with the meals so the people would respond to that, and then the letters would be delivered directly with the Meals on Wheels. I am covering at this time, I'm focusing on Sligo and Leitrim, so I suppose I would like to invite others in bringing this pen palette initiative to your listeners and the surrounding areas. And in as much as I can, I will offer my support and guidance in this endeavour, because I feel, Greg, that this is a need really to spread out throughout the whole country.
What feedback have you got so far?
Well, the feedback in essence, I suppose I'm speaking to the managers of the resource centres, and they're saying that this is a great initiative. And actually, one of them spoke of during COVID the way letters were sent out in a book, and the opt-in letters from the other resource centres just going out this week.
Okay.
But I suppose speaking to both of the managers, they spoke about how yes, they feel particularly at this time. That people would feel maybe more lonely at this time of year.
All right, if someone would like to create something similar in this part of the world, or wherever they happen to be listening to us from, and want to maybe, get some advice from you, Celine, we have your number here. But is there a way for people generally to contact you to find out what you're doing and see if that model would fit in with the people that they work with or in their community?
Yes, well, I suppose, people can, if you're asking, Greg, how can people contact me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. They can contact me on my surname, my first name at gmail.com. So that's Kilcoyne, Kilcoyne, Celine at gmail.com. My phone number is 087 630 2518. I'm also available on social media, but predominantly, I suppose, in this endeavour, if they could reach out to me through my Gmail.
Lovely stuff. Thank you
I'd
so
really
much for
appreciate
your
that.
time, and well, hopefully it grows into something even bigger and better. Thanks so much. That's Celine Kilcoyne, transformational life coach. KilcoyneCeline@gmail.com if you want to get involved in that, if you see the benefit to it. Kieran Brogan refunding the new Bridge 10T project, approved 5 years ago, only looking for funding now. Previous project 13 to 14 years ago, Windy Hole Road to Kirkstown was approved. It's still not been done. Announcements are made, but the action doesn't follow through. No point having announcements, but then not seeking funding at the time. Did that come from... Oh, Caroline's just... that didn't come from Kieran Brogan, did it? Or did it? No, I don't know why he's referenced in that. The bottom line is though, in terms of the process... All right, okay. He's on the news. That's a quote from him. I haven't heard him directly. But the bottom line is that this is one big project. The government has committed to funding it. Is it included in estimates at this time? I'm not quite sure. But we can't even see if funding will be forthcoming unless the council get the project over the line. A lot of money's been spent, not the council, but the roads, and the council are involved in it as well. But get the project to the point whereby we're ready to go. Where's the cash? So we can sort of say, oh, well, the money won't be there, but we don't know at this point. We could be heading towards some sort of an economic crash in this country as well. But that being said, the government says that it is, even in the event of the economy shrinking, that it is hoping to keep the spending up on infrastructural projects. So we'll just have to wait and see. A caller says the councillors are happy to increase LPT by 15%, but won't touch commercial rates. Wondered, do any councillors own a business? Well, it's not all councillors. Enough get it over the line. There's some vote against it, some don't vote at all. But it's a locked-in 15% on top of what we pay every year. It doesn't go up 15% every year, but I'm not going to keep making that point, but it's just in case people think it's increased by them. It's about whether you retain that extra every year. I didn't get my LPT renewal letter, checked around in case it was delivered to someone else, managed to get through to the tax office, said it was posted on the 15th of September, was able to pay with my debit card over the phone. When one of the breaks was on, I went into revenue. On my phone, scrolled down, there is an LPT section, and it did tell me where I'm at the moment. So when the show's off air, I will go back on and I'll see if I can do it through the revenue website. I have my property tax through my employer deduction scheme. It's very handy, but if I were to kick my clogs, the tax deduction would cease and my family would be unaware of the fact that it was no longer being paid. They could face serious fines and penalties for what could be 5 years of non-payment. I would say revenue wouldn't be long sending a letter out, but I take your point. I'm going to double check. I hope I pay mine through a deduction of wages. Imagine if I wasn't doing that. How many years would I be liable for? God, I don't even want to think about it. That's really set me thinking now. Will I be able to finish the show? I hope so. Have I paid my LPT? I hope so. A caller says, as we did our out of leaf in the scheme 2 years ago and we're still waiting for our 40-year guarantee, how do we value our home? Maybe this has been answered. Sorry, we missed that part of the show. No, yours is such a specific... if your house has been remediated, I mean, are you signed off on? I know you didn't get the 40-year guarantee. That's a conversation you're going to have directly with LPT, because it's not unique, but it's really quite specific. Nolene lives in Manchester, a holiday home in Buncrana. Letter probably sitting in a house in Buncrana, but has no way of getting it. Can't travel due to age and illness. Has standing order from bank for previous years. What do you do in that situation? Do you have if you have one of the letters at home, you can log on from Manchester and put in your or someone on their behalf could put in their house number and the PIN. So it will be on a letter. I don't know if you have any letters retained, or you could ring and they will send out the PIN to your new address, or someone can on your behalf. It's a complicated one, that, of course. April the 1st already, lol. Much chance of a bridge than airport or railway for Letterkenny. Yeah, well, I mean, I have to park my cynicism sometimes and say, well, let's wait and see. I know these people are working hard on this project with a view to it beginning and completing, and might I be travelling over that bridge in 2032 if I'm alive? I don't know. We'll see. Lots more comments coming in. I'm going to try and get through as many of them as I possibly can, but let's take a break and then we'll get the weather.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
If you have a cough, flu, sore throat, or if you're just feeling miserable, don't suffer through it. At McGee's Chemist, we have the expertise to help you feel better. Our pharmacists and experienced staff will recommend the most effective over-the-counter solutions and give advice on how best to manage your symptoms. At McGee's, we have a wide range of trusted brands and products to help you recover. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Without people like you, our efforts would fall flat. But when people like you give blood, someone in need gets a lifeline. Maybe someone just like you. We never get to choose when to need blood, but we can choose when to give. Find out how to become a donor at giveblood.ie. We count on you.
With the phasing out of R32 refrigerant and heat pumps, discover next generation comfort with the new award-winning Grant Airona R290 heat pump, delivering exceptional performance with quiet operation. The Grant Airona R290, heating for the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
For all you hard workers and multitaskers, those who come to work with big ambitions and bigger ideas, and all you legends of the trade, however you get the job done, there's a Volkswagen commercial vehicle for your business. Choose the new Transporter, Caddy Cargo, Crafter, Amarok, or the all-electric ID Buzz Cargo. Enjoy HB finance from 0% or purchase contributions of up to €2,000. Find the Volkswagen in you with the 261 range. Terms and conditions apply. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Visit volkswagenvans.ie for further information.
Order your 261 with Connolly's Volkswagen Commercials, Letterkenny. See connellys.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Our Christmas shop has now opened for all your festive shopping needs. Explore our extensive range of decorations, bedding and more in our homeware department, in store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
So, a dull and blustery day with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, turning more persistent through the afternoon and evening. A clearance will move into the western half of our region in the late evening, effectively all of our region. Quite mild, with highest temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees and fresh to strong southwest winds. Weather was all right, wasn't it, for Halloween? Hopefully there was lots of people out trick-or-treating, or were there? I don't know. I never saw anyone. I sent ones, but I never saw anyone. Right, now to some of your comments on a range of subjects, but as I invite them, it's very important that I reference them. A caller says, I think it's extremely concerning that Britain's Queen gave money to Prince Andrew, or Andrew as he's known now, to pay off a victim of abuse. What action will be taken against the royal family on the issue? Paying off a victim is the greatest of crimes, and the royal family should be no different. Andrew should also face the courts for his crimes. That whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is very peculiar to me. That, you know, you will get, just briefly, because I track it a little bit. You've got the American government, effectively. Donald Trump's named in the Epstein files, though there's mixed messages as to what he was doing within them. And there's lots of other big hitters in it as well. And the US government now effectively say there was no trafficking going on, right? But they've got that Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for child trafficking, for trafficking people for sex. So if the government is saying there is no trafficking that went on, why have they got someone in prison for doing that? How is someone convicted for it? And also too, you know, the fact that they're covering in the British media, covering Andrew and his case, and he's moving out of the house, and the royal family saying he denies it. Well, if he's denying it, why is he moving out of the house? And if he's moving out of the house because maybe they think something went on, why isn't he in front of the courts? Why are these rich people able to get away with this all of the time? So can a few things be true at the same time? So obviously the royal family think the accusations hold enough water that they've stripped him of all of his titles, thrown him out of the house that he was renting, and completely disassociated themselves with him. But at the same time, they put out a statement saying that he strongly denies the charges. Well, then don't throw him out of the house. Don't strip him of his titles. Or if you believe there's some wrongdoing, get him in front of a court. It's very, very peculiar. Some very, very powerful, very influential people are involved in that, and yet nothing is ever going to seemingly come of it. iPass centres, seems like the lifelong doleheads in this country are only good at burning stuff down. Maybe if they want and got themselves a job and stopped leeching more than the immigrants, they'd be too busy to endanger women and children. Now, there's a couple of things going on in that text. In the text sender is making a judgment on a whole group of people, which is exactly what that whole group of people arguably are doing in terms of refugees. You know, so you're doing to others what you're probably critical of others doing to refugees, which is kind of a contradiction to me, to be honest with respect. Also, we don't know the job status of whomever was responsible. The government and media have lost the immigration debate. How about an apology to the people of Ireland for labelling those that question things as misinformation far right? Well, I've no apology to give because we've always facilitated fair, balanced conversation on this issue on this programme. And every single show's on YouTube. So go and find one situation where people unchallenged are referencing to people who are anti-immigration as far right. Those words never come out of my mouth, and they never come out of another's mouth without being challenged. So I won't be apologising, but I take your point. Replanning objections. Unless you're residing in an area, you should have no say. This would preclude holiday home owners or people classes not being stakeholders. No, I think if you have property in the area, you're directly affected by it, even if it's a holiday home. No, I have seen and read people submitting from South Leitrim objections to developments in Donegal town, talking about the view and the scenery, and when they visit the area, this is what they like to see. I'm not on about people who if you have a holiday home in an area, you know, you have a say in that area. That's not what I was referencing. Greg, the law is the law. The government cannot change European law on the environment. The laws are there for a reason, to protect the environment. I'm surprised you're falling for builders and government lies about delays. The government should be building social houses instead of pandering to building companies. Laws that are the laws I referenced were not about circumventing European law and environmental issues. They were about people from outside areas objecting to developments in areas that they're not resident in. But I take your point. I'm not pandering to anyone, by the way. Hi, Greg. Being a bit flippant here, but has anyone heard how Heather Humphreys' Irish classes are going, or was it all a bit of smoke and mirrors? I don't know. We'll probably never find out what comes from that. Bus charges for free travel pass an issue here. A caller says, in fact, it's Michael. Regularly has to travel to Dublin for hospital appointments and has a free bus pass and has companion traveller as well. Bus companies insist on booking online and charge up to €3 each, so it's costing €6 each time he has to travel. That's come up for a long time, that the free bus pass, having to book your place online and there being a charge for that. It's a problem, isn't it? But I don't know any further information in relation to that. I didn't realise it was €3 each. I thought it was $1.50 or $2, but there you go. Joseph, staying in a hotel in Donegal on the weekend, was asked for photo ID and they took the licence and scanned it. Is this normal? Concerned about businesses having the ID on file in case it could be used fraudulently. If I go far and the first thing they do is scan the photo ID, I'm not sure. Is it normal in Ireland? I've never seen it in Ireland before. The business, though, in terms of your ID, there's very strict laws in terms of what they can do with that information, GDPR, etc. But this is the first time I've heard of photo ID being scanned in a business or hotel, accommodation in Ireland. I haven't come across that before. Is it the new norm? I don't know. Is the Bonagee link prioritised as part of the project? Asked the listener. Not per se, I think was the answer. Have you ever heard so much BS and you wonder why the majority of the electorate don't turn out or spoil their votes in elections? Don't be fooled. There'll be no bridge or 10T before 2040 at the earliest, if at all, says the listener. In capitals as well, so they mean business. Caller phoned the LPT helpline, got automated message to say that lines are very busy and suggest to go online. Again, what I'm going to do when I come off air and do the podcast, etc., is I'm going to go into revenue.ie. There is an LPT section and I'll report back. It's not for everyone. And every time I go onto LPT or onto revenue, I have to get a text message and then fill it in. And You know yourself. Issues with fisheries are the exact same issues that the beef farmers and abattoirs are having. Department of Food and Agriculture looks after fisheries, farmers, forestry. They all need to come together to hold the government accountable, as they are all having the same issues. Okay, interesting. On the issue of fishing, farming gets the same harassment from the department inspectors as the fishing industry does. But I mean, obviously, Brendan Byrne speaks on behalf of fish processors, so the absence of us talking about that is not a absence of it actually happening. So I'm more than happy to talk about that if you're a farmer who feels the same, or you're a farming organisation and you're getting the same treatment. Let's have that conversation too. And more comments coming in that I just didn't quite get to, but we will carry them over and carry them on